Fest to Anaheim.
Yeah.
It was good. I j- you know I always forget how, for lack of a better phrase, good Krenko is. And like I feel like anytime I go to one of these events and then we have a recap on it, I say this exact same thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was fun. I won almost every pod that I sat down in.
Damn. Okay.
Playing, rotating around with Torbjorn, Yuriko, and Krenko.
Mm-hmm.
Alex used my Yarok Allies deck and he loves it.
Oh, sweet.
To the point that I think he said he wants to go and like build his own casual Yarok deck. So he actually has
Alex
something that you can
playing
play.
casual. My God. That is that's a real endorsement.
He had so much fun. So because of the colors in Yarok, there's only so many allies. Because I built this like before changelings really took off.
Oh, right. Yeah,
And so there's only so many allies in there. And so there's a lot of clones.
yeah.
And he
Mm-hmm.
had way too much fun cloning this other guy's Garuda deck.
Oh dear.
To the point where they were just trading each other's creatures left and right. Like the guy, so Garuda ended up stealing Yarok's progenitor mimic. And then Alex cloned Garuda, which dropped in clever impersonator, and so he clever impersonated the progenitor mimic. and then progenitor and then also cloned. Oh God, Garuda had at this point 3 or 4 It That Betrays. I think it was 3.
Okay.
And so I was playing Torbjorn and I had no creatures. And Alex then cloned Garuda's Massacre Worm 4 times with Yarok out.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes.
Cleared out Garuda's board. Just the two of them. It was basically a duel between the two of them. And then after Garuda died, Torbjorn took off
Mm-hmm.
and took that game. But he was having so much fun. So I guess he's gonna go and do a clone build of Yarok, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Some sort of clone-ish build. And then he played it again. It was I was playing Was I playing goblins? No, I was playing Ural. He was playing my Yarok again. This is at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 other guys, and he was having so much fun. And then it came down to Yarok and another deck. I really should get better at remembering commanders. And he had Bramble Sovereign out, and I just died, and I didn't feel like it was my place to tell him that
Mm.
Bramble Sovereign kicks twice.
Mm.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
he did pay the 4 mana to make 2 clones, he could have won.
Yeah.
But like I was like, nah, I'll tell him after. And he was like, you didn't tell me? And I was like,
You can't king bake. Yeah, that's not
right.
You made the right call.
Yeah. But so then he was like, oh my God, Bramble Sovereign's broken. I was like, I
Yes.
know. It's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
I love Bramble Sovereign. Especially in Yarok. Like it just easily gets you way too many fucking ETB creatures just
Uh-huh.
off the bat. I mean, it's a 4 mana double clone, but it's still 4 mana double clone in green.
Yep.
Yeah, it was I had fun. The thing that sucked ahead of time is that fucking the 1 day ticket was 60 fucking dollars. I was not
It's a
happy
lot of
about
money.
that.
Yeah.
And then, another $20 for parking.
Jeez.
And then the gas to get down to Anaheim. So like, it's
I
it's
mean,
not
yeah.
a cheap day.
That's kind of how I felt about when I went to Philly.
Mm,
Like
for the day.
I just for the day, and it was
Hmm.
like, oh, I spent how much on on a pass just to
On
get in,
right on
and
I
then
spent how much on being able to walk through the door
yeah, and
for a
then
day.
okay, so I have to take a bus down, and that's another whatever, and then I need to, and then I'd like pay to play in events after that,
Right.
just like
Yeah.
my God.
And it's not even like, I mean, okay, the ticket goes to them, but
Hmm.
like all of the expenses, it's not like they're all separate, unrelated, related expenses to one company. It's just like
Right.
you have to pay the city for the parking lot. You have to pay the bus
Yeah.
people for the bus. Like it's
Yeah.
all these different things. And it's just it adds up. But
Makes for
it's
an expensive day. Yeah.
yeah. But like I haven't been to a Magic event in almost a year. It's fine. Like
Yeah.
grand scheme, not a big deal. I had a good time. Met some people that I actually like in the Magic space, so like
Sweet.
that was worth it.
Nice. Had a good day of Magic, or good weekend of Magic actually.
Yeah, doing pre-release stuff.
I did pre-release on Friday night, and that was pretty sweet. Got first, went 4-0, got first place there.
Yeah, I
New
saw
set.
the
Yeah.
messages. Well done, man.
New set seems pretty nice. Yeah, I hadn't won like well, I won a couple things. I haven't won a draft in like at the shop in like 6 months or something. It's been a long time, but I've won, a couple pre-releases and a store championship, which was also a draft, but it wasn't like an F&M draft. Actually, no. I went 3-0 at that draft, but there were enough people there that there were two 3-0s.
Mm.
And so, or I got pared down in round one. And then won round one and round two. But there were two people who were 2-0s in the other bracket who were playing against each other, and they both had better tiebreakers than me. So I was like,
Oh,
oh, I am locked out of first place here. But if I lose, then my opponent is locked for first place. So we negotiated a prize split, played the games out anyway. I beat him.
oh,
But it was the best EV for both of us, or
yeah,
expected
yeah, yeah.
value. Yeah, yeah. But so yeah, so pre-release, that was fun. Even better was yesterday. Uh, I did two team drafts, one of Vintage Cube and one of Dominaria.
Mm.
And dude, team drafting is fucking dope. Or oh no, it was team sealed of Dominaria. Both are great. So team draft, we've got two teams of three. Um, I wish we were recording for this. It's fine.
Well, let's just do it.
Okay. Okay.
Let me open up Audacity. But yeah, let's start up and
Sure. Oh
let's
yeah.
make this the cold open. It's fine.
Okay. And you can recap talking about Command Fest too. Audacity levels check looks
Fucking,
good.
I hate
Well, if I
hitting
was a little
skip
louder, can I
on
still?
updates, but like it's
Yeah.
either skip or install, and I don't want to install, so I'm skipping, I
My
guess.
levels are down compared to usual. Let me try something real quick.
Okay, well then, since you're doing that, I'll install this update.
Oh, oh.
It's Audacity. It's not a big deal. Their updates are fast. And next. Yes. Next. Install. Next.
Levels, check. No, it's still down.
Mic
Levels,
check,
check,
one,
check,
two, one,
check.
two. Ooh.
What the fuck? Oh, you know what? I bet it's the wrong. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
DD builds.
Eat. Oh my gosh. That's another one I can talk about.
Levels, check, check, check. Eat.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I guess it would be relatively awkward to talk about a viewer who is currently viewing as a recording on the pod. DD. Eat. Anyway,
Sorry.
hi. So this is one
Yeah.
of the only times I'm going to openly acknowledge chat on a recording pod because we haven't started recording yet. Hi, DD. When I was telling the story about Eid, and obsessing over that episode of Dexter's Laboratory, this is who I was watching that episode with.
Yeah.
Eid. Oh my gosh. Oh, amazing. All right.
Memories.
Just as soon as he came in, it was like, it's like DD builds. And so it's just like, oh, I'll call him DD. DD.
Yeah, no, you were not getting out of that without extended Dexter's Laboratory references and rants.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Did you transition into omelette du fromage or
no, we kept it to just eat because then I'm recording on Audacity now, but
okay.
Because then another viewer went and found the video clip from me and sent it on Discord, and so now I have to work it in to to the stream somewhere.
All right. Let's get this show on the road.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so tell me about this.
Yeah. So I was playing Team Draft yesterday. Well, Team Draft and then Team Sealed. Team Draft of Vintage Cube and Team Sealed of Dominarias, and they're both of them. You do a pod of 6 people, so 2 teams of 3. And then you do like a round robin. Everybody plays everybody. And so first to 5 wins, wins the that team wins.
Okay.
And or everybody on your team plays everybody on their team. I mean, so Team Draft, you're seated so that it's you, other team, teammate, other team, teammate, other team, right around the table. Okay. And so you're passing to opponents the whole draft, and there's a real psychological component going on of like because hate drafting in normal drafts is bad. Like you're going to be passing to somebody you probably won't even play against, so you might as well give them good signals to be in a deck that you're not, and hook them up. They'll hook, not like consciously or anything, but like you signal that you are not in this color, and they will be in that color and presumably not in your colors, right? So hate drafting, generally bad. Hate drafting, team draft, great. And you have to like talk with your teammates to be like, okay, I saw in pack 1, pick 1, I had to choose between Ragavan, White Plume Adventurer, Fury, and Shield of the Apocalypse. That was my actual pack 1, pick 1 decision.
Jesus.
Yeah. And like I would be happy first picking any of those cards in fucking Vintage Cube. And so I was like, okay, so which one didn't you see? Okay, he's definitely in this, right? You can only do that after the whole draft is over. And then you're like prepping each other for the decks that your opponents think you think your opponents are in, and you're like, okay, I know he has
Mm-hmm.
this. Like, watch out for this counter spell, or blah blah blah. Right.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, you just take regular draft, up the complexity even more, but then add the team component to it. It's awesome. Team sealed. Teams of three again. You each open 12 packs, build 3 decks out of them. So it's a little like when we did that full box two-headed giant, except fewer packs, because
Yeah,
that was
much fewer.
ridiculous. But you still end up with good decks, like a little better than like a draft deck generally.
Mm.
Um, and you just uh, but you might stick one. You'll end up with like 2 good decks and then one just kind of stinker.
Mm.
You're like, okay, good, so and so go play the stinker. And Yeah, it's a great time. I highly recommend. Apparently it's like the sweatiest format in the world. Like, people who are really like pro tour, at the pro tour, apparently they everybody shows up early, or everybody who scrubs out, right? Everybody who like doesn't make the cut, doesn't make day 2,
Right.
they just gamble like crazy. They just put a bunch of money up on team drafts and do that all night for for the rest of the
Wow.
pro tour, while their teammates are presumably still in contention. So yeah,
That's
the
cool.
it is cool, and it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend anyone who has the shot. How are you doing? What's good with you? How's Command Fest? How is everything?
Command Fest was fun. We were talking before the pod about just the inabsorbent amount of expenses that comes with traveling for, even not even just the traveling, but like just going to a Magic event when, like, I'm not personally heavily invested in Magic. I have a lot of fun with it, but like I'm not building like an online presence about it. I'm not like
Yeah,
trying to make a name for myself in the Magic community. So like
right.
when it's something that I'm casually doing and it has that kind of a price tag on it, it's just kind of a bitch.
No, for sure. Like, oh, yeah, we were just saying when I went to Philly, and it's like I bought a weekend pass, and then nobody who was gonna go with me ended up going, and so I was like, all right, I'll just take the bus down for a day. So the bus costs money, the ticket costs money, events cost money,
Yeah.
and it just, oh my god, all of a sudden I miss Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Grand
Yeah.
Prix, you had, event. It was free to get in the door. If you just wanted to play side events all day, you just pay for side events. If
Right.
you wanted to play the main event, yeah, there's a pretty hefty price tag to that.
Right. It
But
was
then you
like
play all
$90 for
day.
like 13 rounds in one day.
Yeah, it was a lot of Magic.
It is a lot of Magic, but it made the price tag worth it.
Totally.
But I mean, so like, big picture, 1 day pass for me in Anaheim was $60. I played probably 7 games,
Yeah.
6 or 7 games, like $10 a pop. It's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
I got to meet people. Like my main goal was to hang out with Alex, and
Totally.
I got to spend 80% of the day with him. So
Yeah.
I
Money
was
well
fine.
spent. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those. I don't know if I feel like you had to have had some experiences like this with playing Smash, and like going and playing with strangers and finding out that our basic and
Our meta.
Smash skills were
Yeah.
apparently way better than the average player in town or wherever we are, like in
Yeah.
college or whatever.
There's definitely a feel out process, because especially with a
Yeah.
game that, especially before online,
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
online Smash, you just play with people like your play group, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, we're really good, we You better
Well,
watch
yeah.
out.
So like it goes both. It goes in both like spectrums, right? Because like
Yeah.
you'll feel, you and your friend group are like at this level, and then you go and play some randos, and you find out that the randos are like down here, and you start to get cocky and feel good,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll go play in a tournament, and you go to like a tournament,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, no,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
And so it was a similar experience with how I have ended up building my decks, and a lot of that, God, like 3/4 of that is because of Alan.
Yeah.
And and so like I have these like powerful decks, and we show up, and then like people who have like, oh god, like people who have like a CEDH or just below CEDH high
Yeah.
power mindset do not
Yeah.
do not block with their 1/1 mana dork,
Yeah.
which gives me more advantage.
Yeah.
And so you just like play into that. I really thought this guy was gonna block with his Arbor Elf multiple times, but he kept
Uh-huh.
on letting my ninjas through that didn't have evasion, and I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, if this is how you want to play this,
This is the
it's
game.
fine.
Yeah. Because you, I mean, I get that from honestly a commander standpoint. It's good for the table if they block, but it's bad for them.
Right.
And so I think if you are a competitive EDH player, you are constantly like thinking about how do I maximize my own chances of winning versus how do I stop this other player from winning.
Yeah. So it's interesting. It's a different play group. Like
Yeah.
you spend so much time playing with your set core friends that like you know how each other's decks play. You know their weaknesses.
Especially, I mean, you called him out earlier, but especially Alan, who's like, "Yeah, fuck you. I'll turn off your deck."
Yeah, Alan
Or-
is more than willing to give
I
himself a
will
3-turn
do-
handicap just to
Yeah.
screw you over.
I will do incredibly suboptimal things just to make you think about your actions.
Yeah. It's exactly what he does. Like he'll like not cast a mono rock just to leave 2 blue up just to fuck with you, even though he doesn't have any counters in that entire deck.
And that's such a bad, like, even if you did have counters in your deck, even if you had a lot of counters, it's almost never correct to bluff a counter spell.
Right, because
Just like it's almost never correct to play around the counter that you think your opponent has. Like, unless you really need that card to resolve to like for your game plan to function, like they're just gonna counter it next turn. Like unless
Right.
you or you have like a big advantage on board and you have another way of like pressing, like why would you? So yeah, Alan knows this. He knows the correct way to play.
Yeah,
He knows that you know the correct way to play, but he's next leveling your next level bullshit.
It's, oh my god, that man. It's the level of manipulation that man has. One, over me, but two, over an entire pod.
Especially over you.
He has broken me. And I don't mind being on a recording saying this, but it's one of those things where it's like, I am the level of Magic player I am today because of him.
Yeah.
Compared to when you and I started and I put every single card of each color into one deck, because that's not how you're supposed to play. But
Okay,
at the
to
same
be
time,
fair, we were 10 years
8,
old.
9, yeah.
9, 10 years old.
Yeah, man, I will die on this fucking hill of just, if there's one thing, I very much believe in learn from your mistakes and grow and don't change your history. The one thing in my life that I would take back is giving away my Magic card collection in high school. That was a terrible decision. I had so many cards.
We've got kids who play at the local shop sometimes, and I just like absolutely dumpster them, and then they feel bad, and then I pull out the story like, no, you're so much better than I was when I was your age.
Right? Oh my gosh, dude.
I just
Ugh.
like, just keep with it. You are on a great trajectory because, like, yeah, when I was your age, not and now, and I feel like I'm a million years old saying the phrase "when I was your
When I
age."
was
But
your
when I was
age.
your age,
Yep.
I was
Yep.
like, "This is my green deck. It's all of my green deck cards. Draw for turn, and just
Yeah. Yeah.
just
I feel
reaching way up to the top
I
of
feel
giant set,
like
or the time when in my very first set of cards, like my first booster, I opened a Leviathan. I was like, all right, I fucking got this.
this is
But
the
I
greatest
also
card ever.
this is the greatest card ever. It's 9 mana, and you have to sack 2 islands to
Every time.
untap it, and you have to sack 2 more to make it attack. But it's a 10/10
But it's
with
a
like,
10/10.
I don't even think it had trample.
Oh my gosh.
and I didn't have I only had 6 islands, and blue was my deepest color for good cards, so I split it among 2. And so I had to phantasmal terrain my own swamp, turn it into an island just to cast it because it has 4 blue pips in its casting cost, and I have to sacrifice all 4 islands just to get it to attack once. Say it connects, they're like,
for you
cool.
to block with a 1/1 Llanowar
Right.
elves.
and it's, even if it connects, they're like, cool, I'm at 10. You can't cast blue spells the rest of the game.
Have fun, buddy. Have fun. Oh man, yeah. Good times. Good times. Magic.
Magic.
I'm impressed at Magic.
It's the longevity is incredible.
Yeah. 30
keep-
years now.
They've done so many things where the community is like, this is gonna kill Magic, and here it is.
Yeah. Impressive.
Mhm.
Anyway, so should we just like
Yeah, let's record a
we're done?
podcast.
Should we,
I guess
what are we
so.
doing here? What is this?
This is a podcast called Hype is My Superpower. We talk about comics, things we're hyped on. Yeah, I'm Steve Storman here with my best buddy Will Freeland, and that's the introduction.
I like it.
Will, what'd you read this week?
Not as much as I wanted to, but I think I can. I think it's okay.
Okay.
I read the second half of Jason Aaron's 11th volume of Avengers because the middle issue was the AXE Judgment Day issue.
Oh, yeah.
Along those same lines, I read the second 2/3 of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3 of Zeb Wells'
Right.
run because the
'Cause you
first
ran
issue
into-
was Hellfire Gala and the second issue was AXE.
My goodness.
And then I also read a mini series. I'm so
Hey.
getting used to saying that. Gambit. Thick as Thieves, set in the past, with Ro. Yeah. And then
Nice.
I started Defenders Beyond, which is going to be right up my alley of just like, holy crap, look at this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm only like an issue and a half in, so I'll save it for next
Nice.
week.
How weird does it feel to be doing a regular episode?
Duh,
done one-
I felt
we've
very unprepared.
Right?
It was so weird.
We've done one regular, like, non-Krakoa Rush episode in the last, like, 2-3
months.
months, something like that.
Yeah, that dude.
And non-AXE, like, yeah.
Yeah, there's that rush was fun.
It was.
My pile is mad at me. Oh, you know what else I found out? Remember
that?
how I said that 2 of the last 3 weeks no comics came out?
Yeah.
It's that Marvel.com's website wasn't loading the books that came out.
No.
So I found a third-party site that actually lists every comic that comes out, not just Marvel's, and that you
Yeah.
can filter it down to Marvel and TPs
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. And there were 3 books that I missed in those 2 weeks. So
Okay.
they keep coming out. Woo!
Strange that they just keep publishing comic books. I don't know why they would do that to you.
It's ridiculous. I mean, okay, 52 weeks in a year. There's maybe 4 or 5 that don't have any books that come out, any TPs that come out.
Any trip, yeah.
So, whatever. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I mean, they're publishing how many titles at once? Like 40,
The only
30?
time I've ever been told was like 8-9 years ago from John, and there was 51 Marvel titles at the time.
Dear God. So you're on the hook for, and that you're on the hook for roughly 100
Solo
trades
titles
a year.
At
That doesn't
bare
include minis.
minimum.
Okay.
That doesn't include the like miniseries
Or specials like a Black, White, and Blood type thing. Or,
or the crossover events and all their side stories.
Dear God.
Yeah, I mean, like every miniseries, like Gambit wouldn't be in that like count because of the time that
'Cause it's
like
just
if
ongoing.
Gambit was May to November, if I'm having this conversation in March, that's not on that list. Like,
Right.
So, yeah, couple hundred,
Yeah.
or not couple hundred, I guess. Probably, I should actually. I'm kind of curious. Dang, because I've got decades of books, man. Okay, so biggest tangent I've ever had.
Go for it.
I have library thing with my
Right.
catalog of comics that I have.
Yeah.
and I have
you were
them
doing that on the
tagged.
stream for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I have them
Took
tagged.
you a long time to get through.
Yeah,
all
in
of your
each
comics.
box, and each box
Yeah.
is numbered and yada yada yada. When Alana and I, assuming we still plan to get her by her grandparents' house, and I have all of my comics in the basement in my man cave,
Yeah.
one of the projects I want to do is reorganize those books to get all of the like Captain Marvels in one box kind of a thing. All the X-Men in one box instead of it being chronological, have them
Right.
grouped by title. Just makes it easier to find.
Totally.
And so when going through that, maybe I add tags for the year that they came out. And so I can actually just look up each year that I have the things.
Nice.
Cool. That'll be fun. I'm excited for that. It's data.
I'm glad you enjoyed having a normal week.
Yeah. How about you?
This is what we call a pregnant pause. Yeah. I read some Wolverine.
Okay.
Rob Liefeld's on Wolverine now.
Okay.
I read some Wolverine and Iron Fist miniseries.
Okay.
I read some Cable. I read some Deadpool.
I mean, on paper, those aren't bad titles.
New creative team on Deadpool also.
Mm.
And yeah.
Sweet. I can't wait. Oh, man. Should we
Start
hop
us
in?
off. Yeah.
All right. Let's do it. Okay, so Avengers. Jason Aaron. I feel so bad because I was so hyped on Jason Aaron as a writer. It's just he continually proves to me that he shouldn't be on a team book. So I only had 2 issues to read in here. So this TP is issues 57 through 62. Issue 60 was the AXE crossover.
Right.
57, 58, and 59 we already covered, and that was them just hopping through time on 616 to chase the Mephisto going around trying to destroy the primal powers.
Yeah.
And so we got to meet different Ghost Riders and different Odin or Thor and different hosts of the Phoenix and
Yeah.
Starbrand and blah 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 obnoxious stuff. I got
And then the AXE crossover hardly had anything to do.
Yeah.
Despite being the first word in the acronym AXE being Avengers, it was just Captain America and Iron Man, and then the rest of the Avengers were just kind of there.
yeah. And then in this crossover,
And it didn't have
in the
anything to
crossover
do
issue,
with
it's just
their
Hawkeye,
ongoing title, except they live in a dead celestial.
right? And it's kind of funny that dude, I read another book. Oh no, it was an Eternals book, and it was so good.
Oh,
Oh no, shh! I was so excited to talk about it. Okay, well, I'll have to find it in a minute.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, and then the Avengers issue, or the AXE issue is Hawkeye's Judgment. Anyway, 61, 62 is it focuses on Brandy, who is the Star Brand, and every time she's been using her, we got introduced
Wait.
her as a baby.
I just put this together. Starbrand's name is Brandy.
Yes, because she doesn't have a name.
Oh,
She was
I guess that's a little better.
She was born with the Star Brand in Shi'ar space, and her mother died. So, okay. Her mom got the Star Brand while she was pregnant with this baby. She was in a Shi'ar prison, and then
So many prisons, the Shi'ar.
and then so on and so forth, and she died and gave birth to this girl and gave her the Star Brand. So she doesn't have a name, and so they're just calling her Brandy.
Yeah. Okay.
In the same way that we call
that's better. That's better. That's better than
then this is
some
her
real
actual name.
1960s ass.
No.
Yeah.
In the same way that Remy's name is Remy LeBeau. He doesn't.
Right.
We don't know what his birth name is because he was never been given one canonically.
Right. But it's on the nose because they didn't have anything else to call her, not because.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, whenever she expand, whenever she uses her power,
There we go.
to a larger degree, her body ages up.
Okay.
So at the beginning of this Avengers run, she was a newborn baby, and then in Heroes Reborn, with the altered reality where what if the Avengers never existed?
Yeah.
She's like 5, and then that reality gets reset. Come back here, and then she uses her power. She throws a tantrum, uses her powers a bunch, and turns into a child, like around like 9, and then in volume 10, she ages up to a young adult. So that's where she is now. She goes through the 2 issues, and by the end of the 2 issues, she is a frail old woman.
Huh. Interesting. So they're not planning on using that character for very long.
Apparently.
Okay.
Just for Jason Aaron's run, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Avengers are still jumping around through time, trying to fight Mephisto in these different time periods, as Mephisto is going through and trying to take out the legacy powers. 61, you spend more time than usual. In the year 1047, which is the Viking Age, and you have a Godzilla Mephisto.
Okay.
Fighting Boldolf the Black, the strongest Viking there ever was. This Merkfoot, the ape man mystic, is the Sasquatch sorcerer supreme. Young Thor, just after he was able to lift Mjolnir, so he has both Mjolnir and Yarnborn. Theodosia Zardos, who
Okay.
was burned at the stake for being a witch.
The Zardos family, the Winding Way, they're sorcerers from like X-Men and Excalibur. Nightcrawler's longtime girlfriend, Amanda Sefton, her real name is Jermaine Zardos. She
Oh,
is and then her mother, Margalia Zardos, is blah 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 blah. Yeah, cool.
well, cool.
You've
There
read
you go.
stuff with Amanda Sefton. I know you have. But she's a deep cut who I'd like to see
Yeah.
in Krakoa.
Yes, but we established that I have, but I also didn't know who she was when I read it.
Right. Yes.
She is the current Phoenix Force wielder. She's the Phoenix Witch of Wundagore.
Okay.
And then Nahanda, the Renegade Panther, and her lover, Princess Gale, the outlaw Atlantean Iron Fist. Also, the mysterious Grizzly Rider of Cahokia.
Just okay. I
It's
know I say
obnoxious.
this every time we read Jason Ayres'
Jason
Avengers.
Aaron.
It's just ka-chunk, ka-chunk,
Stop.
ka-chunk,
Stop.
staple, staple, staple.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. And then,
It,
and
here's the thing. Like, I'm okay with like ridiculous. I'm more than okay with ridiculous shit in comics, and like, you want to wild out and do something ridiculous. Be my guest. Like, I'm all for like having big crazy things going on in comics, but it's kind of done without any sense of wonder, or like it's just like,
yeah,
hey, look at this, hey, look at this, hey, look at this, hey, look at this.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
mm,
It's
okay.
it's funny because like now that I'm like now that I'm selling myself on Jason Aaron's approach, right?
Yeah.
It reads to me as Marvel also knowing Jason Aaron's approach and being like, let's challenge him to question the Avengers and
Yeah,
see what he
yeah.
does.
Let's make the Avengerist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, I hope they regret their decision. Like it was the first 7 volumes I had a great time with. It's just
Yeah.
now that we're at that point at the end where he has to prove his
Wrap
point.
things up, pay things off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be
Yeah.
you have to do the payoff. It feels
Yeah.
like we're stumbling at the finish line. In the same way
That's too
that
bad.
like on a much lesser degree where I was kind of complaining about the end of Zdarsky's run on Daredevil.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So it was like it was so close to making this statement about the prison system and the police
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
in America, and it was so close to being like profound. But then he
Totally.
sums it all up with a fist fight and that lasts all of 2 issues, and then back to status quo. It's just like,
Yeah.
you were so close, so close.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what the ending of it feels like the ending of Jason Aaron's run on Avengers is like.
Okay.
So anyway, Brandy got sidelined by the Avengers because her power's too unpredictable and she's too new to her power. And she's like, stop treating me
Sure.
like. She said something about like when Captain Marvel was telling her to sit out. She was like, aren't I old enough to decide that for myself? And she's saying this in the playroom that she was using literally just like a couple weeks ago.
It's kind of
and
funny.
and Carol's looking around. She's like, no, you're not actually.
That's good.
And so they're going off on their mission, and Brandy's pissed, and so she uses her own Starbrand power to start jumping through time on her own. And so she goes to 1047 to help to help fight Mephisto, and then she jumps to 1924 in Hong Kong, where Knuckles O'Shaughnessy, who's the dead end kid spirit of vengeance, and Grandmaster Wong, China's mightiest hero, Master of Shaolin, Hung Ga, and the 11th Special Fist, are fighting Mephisto possessed people. and she shows up there and knocks everyone on their ass, and then she jumps to 66 million years ago, where we have the first Starbrand, which is the T-Rex, and it just makes me excited that they brought him back. But anyway, T-Rex has this like mental connection with Brandy because they are both Starbrands, and
They have both branded the star.
yes. And he talks about emotes to her how it makes him happy that the world continues on after his life, and that she has others around her that are powerful like her, whereas he is alone.
Yeah.
But also, and this is where Jason Aaron is taking Hickman's origin of Starbrand and really turning it on its head. The meteor that crashed on Earth that destroyed the dinosaurs
The
is what
is that a white event?
apparently, but they
Oh my
don't say
god.
that it's a white event. They just
Yeah.
it just says the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs. That's how the Starbrand first came to Earth. And the way he words it is that it came to Earth and not that it is a planetary defense system.
Created by Earth. Yeah.
But whatever, it's not a big deal. It's
Yeah.
just, time passes and stories change. And then and then she jumps to 1868 and fights the American West. And then there's a montage of her punching different Mephistos. And that ends with her being super, super old and withered.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the last issue focuses on Agamotto, who was the Sorcerer Supreme representative, or the Magic / Sorcerer Supreme representative on the prehistoric Avengers.
Okay.
This is post birth of Thor, so the prehistoric Avengers are broken up,
Okay.
and Agamotto feels the presence of Mephisto coming, and so he's going around trying to regather the troops, because he needs to fight Mephisto. So he meets up with he meets up with the old Ghost Rider, meets up with the Iron Fist lady, and Iron Fist lady talks about how she's met up with Moon Knight. And
okay.
he's this like caveman with a crescent moon tattoo on his chest.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And Caveman Starbrand has been hanging out on the moon, and so he goes and says hi to him. Black Panther doors are closed off, and Agamotto's like, "Oh, a pain so great, I fear their doors will remain barred to the rest of the world for a very long time." Like, okay, buddy. And they
Okay, buddy. Yeah.
goes and talks to Odin, tries to recruit him, and he's like, "Fine, as long as Phoenix isn't going to be there." And Agamotto's like, "Yeah, Phoenix is gone. Don't worry about it." And then he casts a spell, and you have Odin, Caveman, Ghost Rider, Starbrand, Iron Fist, Moon Knight, and Agamotto showing up in present time to the current roster of Avengers, and that's where it ends. So,
Okay. There we go.
getting there.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. So this
How
volume
did
of
it
Spider-Man.
go so wrong? We love Zeb Wells. A lot of stuff he does.
Zeb Wells does do some good stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. See, I feel I want to be a fly on the wall for this hiring of Zeb Wells. Like,
Yeah.
they just tell him like, "Hey, completely f Peter over."
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't know. It clearly there is an editorial mandate to not let Spider-Man, like, to keep him stuck in a certain sort of place.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same for every
Right.
comic book character, right? Like,
Yeah.
the illusion of progress, and you can't go too far. Spider-Man's the hardest example to do that with, because the title is so centered around him personally and his
Hmm.
inner life and the struggles that he goes through and his struggle to become to be the best person he can be. That is where you change as a person, and in order to keep publishing him, they have to make him not change.
Right.
And
It's
but like the lengths that they go to do it, it just seem kind of like no, I'm sorry, the ship sailed. The ship sailed a long time ago. You're making the wrong Spider-Man comics now.
hmm hmm
Like you you have to let Spider-Man be the exception. You have to let the Spider-Man story that you were telling from roughly you know, with lots of hiccups, like from uh 1963 to 2005, you
uh-huh.
kind of have to, they decided that's not the Spider-Man story, you know. We're going, we want to treat Spider-Man like all of our other heroes, and give him the illusion of change, do resets to status quo. And yeah, I just think that you just have to treat him differently.
And I think where they padded that, like, so Marvel's like, okay, well, we have to reset him at some point. And then I
Yeah.
think it makes me so, if given your point, which I fully agree with, if
Yeah.
given your point, then how do we buy time before we have to reset him? And that's when you
R-
get Spider-Verse.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
And so they padded the last 10 years with Spider-Verse stories and threats from the multiverse that are specifically built for spiders. And now,
I I thought Superior was a great way to do that too.
yeah. And
You
because
know?
it's a new take, and it's clearly going to be temporary, and
Yeah.
the break from that is how you organically reset Peter Parker, because
Right.
you had someone else running around in his shoes, and it wasn't a mystery to us.
And that's why, like, on its face, I like the concept or the idea of, like, something happened, Peter's life is fucked, like, let's dig into what it was and his attempts to make things better, and like slowly reveal what it was and why it happened. Like, I think that's a good concept for a book.
Hmm.
But it sounds like everything they're doing around the edges of just like, okay, I'm specifically talking about torturing his relationship with MJ to absolute death.
Yeah.
Like, there are things where it kind of strains the character to the point where it's like you're not, I don't know. I guess they haven't revealed, I'm not reading it myself. They haven't revealed
They're
what the
dragging their
reason why.
feet. We
Yeah.
are we are 12 issues of non-crossover stuff deep,
Yeah.
and they haven't touched on, like, it's been this afterthought of plot
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a year now,
Yeah.
and we still haven't seen where it's going.
Yeah.
And include, and just how much can happen in 6 months. I guess a lot can happen in 6 months, but like, when you start with the
Again,
6 month jump,
that's like that's like 5 years of publishing.
seriously, when you start with the 6 month jump after a run like Nick Spencer's run that ends in Sinister War, where he has, it's Spider-Man up against 60 of his, or 30 of his rogues gallery. I guess around
Yeah.
40. It doesn't matter. And then you do a 6 month gap, and in that gap, you had Pete in a coma, and Ben Riley going around as Beyond's Spider-Man, and then
Right.
becoming Chasm, and then Pete coming back, getting trained by Cap and Black Cat, and then
Right.
his relationship with MJ falls apart. She has children who are older than 6 months, and so many other things. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so You read the AXE crossover where he's getting
I did.
judged by the progenitor with Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
You also read
The
the
Hellfire Gala.
Hellfire
Yeah.
issue where he re- sort of
MJ,
rescues
Moira,
MJ, but she
et
still
cetera.
doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that gives us 3 issues. Sorry, 4 issues. Ew, I thought it was 3. Anyway, main story is Ned Leeds. Ned Leeds is back. Ned Leeds is the second Hobgoblin,
Yep.
second after Roger Kingsley, because Roger Kingsley was going to get caught, and so he brainwashed Ned Leeds into thinking that he was Hobgoblin, so he became the Hobgoblin.
It's one of the weirdest editorial mistakes between new creator handoffs on a book that's happened in Marvel history. There was one writer who was like, "Oh yeah, you know, this character is going to be the Hobgoblin," and then another was like,
Someone else
"No,
is like,
actually,
"Oh, but
it's
what if it was this person?"
yeah,"
Yeah.
and then they had to do like a large series of retcons to. Never mind. All I'm saying,
Anyway,
the larger point is watch out for Ned in the Spider-Man movies.
yeah. So Roger Kingsley used a machine called the Winkler device
Okay.
to mess with Ned Leeds' mind. Anyway, the point is Ned Leeds came back because of a editorial retcon to bring him back. It gets referenced in back in I don't even remember when it happened, and I don't personally care when it happened.
Well done.
For what it's worth. But point is, Ned Leeds is back. He's married
Yeah,
to Betty Brant.
Betty Brant. Yeah.
They have a child together. His
Hmm.
name is Winston. But yeah, he came back. Dad was saved by his goblin serum. So I guess Ned Leeds has goblin serum, and that's what saved him, according to
Ah.
the retcon. Anyway,
Okay.
Ned is back and working as a reporter,
Hmm.
and he's convinced that Roger Kingsley is working with Norman Osborn to steal their baby.
Okay.
Paranoia, paranoia, paranoia.
Yeah.
The baby's gonna have natural goblin serum. The same way
Uh.
it's a plot reference to Norman Osborn's twins that he quote unquote
So
had
gross.
with Gwen Stacy, even though they ended
So
up not
gross.
because Mephisto. And thank you, Nick Spencer, for undoing that.
Yes.
Anyway, and so he's throwing on the Hobgoblin costume to mess with shit and yada yada yada.
Sure.
Meanwhile, Pete current is now working for Norman Osborn. He has an intern, Kamala Khan.
Yep. Yep.
And Spider-Man goes and meets up with Black Cat, and he's like, "Hey, I know where this is going, because I'm single now, and we have this whole like will they won't they thing going on." And Black Cat's
Right.
like, "Do you want to nip it in the bud? Is that what this is?" And he's like, "No, I want to like ask you out on a proper date before this gets out
Hmm.
of hand." And
Yeah.
she's like, she goes, "Maybe," and then leaves. So it's like, okay. Anyway, so Pete's been helping Norman build a suit that I don't know. I know the
Seems like
title.
okay.
Anyway, it's this white and gold suit that's basically Green Goblin armor but smooth.
Yeah. It seems like a bad idea.
Yeah, but so Norman doesn't want to wear it because he doesn't want to do anything that's going to send him back down that path. Because remember, he
Right.
got absolved of his
Yep.
sins from Sin Eater,
Yep.
and so
Yep.
at every step of the way, he's given he in these 4 issues. There's like 5 different situations where he is tempted with becoming the old Norman Osborn,
Right.
thwarts it, and
Right.
but then ends with that like
And then
side
it's like,
look,
but maybe.
and you're like,
Yeah.
Anyway, turns out that Osborn. So Ned Leeds has a picture of Osborn meeting with Roger Kingsley. So that's what's sending
Okay.
him off this spiral. And so Ned
Sure.
reached out to Pete because he found out that Pete's working for Osborn, and Ned's like, "Cool, I have a man on the inside. Come to work for me."
Yeah.
And Pete's like, "Listen, Osborn and I've been through a lot. Like, he's on a good track right now. I don't think this is him."
Yeah.
Like, and Ned Leeds is like, "Oh, fine. So you're not gonna help me? Fine, I'm out." And then anyway, so Pete goes and confronts Osborn. He's like, "Yo, what is this?" And he's like, "Yeah, Kingsley is confronting me because basically Roger Kingsley used to be a tech mogul, and Osborn absorbed his company. And so Roderick is back, and he's like, "Hey, I want my stuff, and I want it back with interest." And Osborn is having the papers drawn up to give him back all of the companies that he took from Kingsley.
Okay.
He's doing everything legit. They have a meetup, and Norman just gives him the papers back, and Kingsley's like, "Wait, seriously? That's all it takes?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm a new man. I don't want anything. Like, I want to be able to wash my hands of this. Here are your companies. You'll see that they've
Yeah.
done really well.
Uh-huh.
So, you're welcome." And I'm out. And then
Yeah.
as he's leaving, so he showed up alone. Kingsley showed up with his two, with like a mob basically. And then
Yeah.
Hobgoblin shows up and takes out the entire mob and beats Kingsley and Osborn. Turns out that was Ned. And it's like, oh my gosh, no
Sure.
way.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kingsley gets taken back by his goons to go and heal somewhere. Osborn gets picked up by the medics, so he's in the hospital. Hobgoblin fights Spider-Man, and Hobgoblin rips off his mask. And it turns out to be Kingsley. He's like, "Wait, what the hell?" He's like, "But you were with Osborn when Hobgoblin attacked." And Kingsley says, "I was." And then Spider-Sense goes off, and then another Hobgoblin shows up, and it's Ned and Kingsley teamed up because
shit.
Kingsley's got Ned back in the Winkler device to use him, and it's two Hobgoblins, and for whatever reason, Spider-Man can't handle two Hobgoblins at the same time, and he's
Even though
wearing.
he's never really broken a sweat with Hobgoblin in the past.
Yeah, and he's never had to deal with Zeb Wells' writing, so
Oof.
he's wearing the goblinish, not goblinish, the Osborn upgraded suit
Yeah.
that is a helmet instead of like cloth, and then it also has like some light green like bubbles
Okay.
on his arms, and they're filled with like little spider bots,
Okay.
which is incredibly creepy. And he does it just to fuck with people. Like, he'll just throw it on somebody, it breaks, and just like millions of little nanobots just like crawl over their face and stuff.
No.
It's non-lethal, but it's really creepy. Anyway, he also has a
Yeah.
glider that he calls Bug.
Okay.
Because why not? Anyway, so
Sure.
Bug catches him, and he's getting around glider, and then someone from Oscorp goes and gives Osborn his laptop in case he wants to work at the hospital. And he's like,
Right.
"Yeah, I do have a lot of work to do." Okay. So he's working, and then he gets a notification that the spider armor is being used. So he tunes in, and he sees that Pete's having a real tough time against two hobgoblins. And so he busts out the gold, was it called Gold
Yeah.
Goblin? The gold glider armor.
Oh, God. He's
Throws
just-
it on,
he-
saves him.
It's like, I can't be tempted, but I'm going to use all the same names.
That's why I think it's Gold Glider. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anyway, he
Still
shows up
the
and saves
Goblin
the day.
Glider. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shows up and saves his day. Pete's helmet. So the main difference between the two hobgoblins is Ned Leeds hobgoblin uses the pumpkin bombs, and
Yeah.
Roderick Kingsley's hobgoblin uses like finger lasers.
Okay.
Anyway, Roderick grabs Pete's head and shoots off the
Oh,
lasers, and it just blows up his helmet, and so his face is
damn.
all charred. But now he's
Yeah.
unmasked, dealing with the two hobgoblins. I don't know if
Yeah.
Ned or Roderick know who he is, but like
Right.
that happened.
Because he knows, he knows Ned very well,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I don't know if Roderick knows who Pete is, but they're dealing with Roderick now. I don't
Probably.
know.
Yeah.
So Ned got knocked. Yeah. So Roderick got knocked off his glider. Ned catches him. Roderick is like, "Cool, you served your use. I just needed to get to Osborne. See you later." Knocks him out, and he goes
Of
falling.
course. Yeah.
And then yeah, it is Ned that they. Anyway, Roderick gets away. Ned
Yeah.
is caught by Spidey, unmasked, but his face is charred. And then Ned grabs him like face to face. So like Ned has to know. Like if I saw you
Yeah.
and your face was charred, I would still know it was you.
Thanks,
But
buddy.
whatever. Right? I could identify you if you got some soot on your face. Um anyway, Osborne takes him and starts punching him and starts losing control. Pete stops him. He's like, "Hey, he's passed out. You're fine." He's like, "Yeah, right, of course, yeah."
Hmm.
And then in the aftermath, Osborne thanks his assistant who brought him the computer, because without that, Pete
Yeah.
would have died. And she's like, "What are you talking about? I didn't bring you the laptop."
Uh-oh.
And Osborne's like, "Okay." And then Roderick goes back, and he is reporting in to somebody, and then they're like, "Yeah," he's like, "They have leads. He won't be any use for us now. Won't be any use for this Winkler device now." He's like, "None that you'll remember. Turn your mind off now. It's in my hands." He says, "Yes, turn mind off your hands. Good boy. I needed two of you in the end, but we succeeded. Osborne's back on the road to becoming his true self." Then you flip, and it's the Red Goblin girl,
Oh,
not Menace, but she got created in Nick Spencer's run, and I forget her
sure.
name. But we haven't seen her in like 12
Yeah.
volumes of Spider-Man.
Jeez.
Yeah, the last issue is Ben Riley as Chasm. So we get a slight dive into what's going on. So I don't fully get it, but the point is Ben Riley. So when Ben was working for Beyond Corporation, he found out that they were manipulating his memories to the point
Yeah.
where when things were going off insane, they wiped like way too much of his memories because people got
Mhm.
involved while they were doing his wiping.
Uh-huh.
Whatever. He doesn't remember anything of Peter Parker's life
Okay.
anymore.
Interesting.
And because of that, he has like 5% of what memory he should have. And he's pissed, but he blames Pete slash Spider-Man, and he
Sure,
blames
why not?
Beyond Corporation. So
That's a little
he
more
wants, yeah. So anyway, the
reasonable.
reason his name is Chasm because there's a chasm in his memories. So anyway,
Oh, okay.
he makes a reference to, he says, Beyond made a clandestine deal for an old military skunkworks program, Project Purgatory, which is a reference to New Mutants Volume 3, number 9.
Huh. Okay.
And he has been stealing some of their equipment to finish the project. Basically, according to the notes, they got to a point where they couldn't figure out the final problem, and
Uh-huh.
Ben believes himself smart enough to figure it out. He's obsessing about this, and so Janine Gobdi is like, "I can't do this anymore. I gotta go." And so she's about to leave, and then she gets made and cops called on her, so she has to run back, and she's like, there's nowhere I can go. Ben, I'm in 100%. You're like, okay. And then
Okay.
and that so this issue is broken up into 3 chapters.
Hmm.
One called, that one was spring, and then summer is Ben going and standing and looking outside, looking at where Pete lives, and then that bill collector that's been hunting down Pete
Right.
sees Ben, and he's like, "Hello, Mr. Parker," and he's like, "That's not me." He's like, "No, I know what you look like." um,
Oh boy.
we, you
Yeah.
still owe all that money. We've been calling around, asked where you were holed up. No one knew. You didn't make your sweet little old aunt lie for you, did you? And he says, "I don't have an aunt, not anymore. I'm leaving now." "Where are you gonna be? We want our money, Parker." And he's like, "I'll be sure to tell him." So he walks away, and then from the tech that they stole, there was some like decades old skin that was used as a sample. It's the
Gross.
key to setting off the ignition. So anyway, it opens up a portal, and Ben walks through, and it shoots into limbo where Madeline Pryor's hanging out.
What?
Yeah, and so Madeline's hanging out in this place that calls out all of your insecurities. And so there's all these goblins being like, an empty husk, an unreal thing, a nothing person from a nowhere place. And then Ben shows up as Chasm, and his goblins are saying the same kind of thing. And they're like, "Hey, we have similar demons here,
Oh no.
both being clones."
They're gonna hook up. They're gonna have
Well,
creepy clone sex.
that so, and she's like,
Okay, it was just me who was thinking that. Okay, okay, okay.
it's, Chasm's like, my demons kind of sound like your demons. And she's like, that they do. Shh, look, they found each other. And they kind of pair off, and they start sniffing at each other.
Are you sure that they're not gonna hook up and have creepy clone sex? Because
Oh,
it really seems like they're about to hook up and have creepy clone
and then,
sex.
well, because Ben is like, they're not going to start smooching, are they? And Madeline says, oh no, they're too similar. Like you said, only thing familiarity breeds is, well, you'll see.
Contempt.
And then you
Yeah.
flip the page, and then they all start gouging each other and
Okay.
tearing each other apart. Anyway, so he's like, oh, interesting. And then she's been eating this like skull apple from a tree, and she's like, here, have some. And he's like, okay, cool. And then he's like, hey, yeah, been pretty lost until I felt this place pulling on me. She's like, limbo has taken on the flavor of its queen, calling others who know my pain, calling you home. It's no coincidence you found your way here, Chasm. Let this be a sanctuary for those like us. Now come, let's see what we can do for each other. Sorry, 4 chapters, and then the 4th chapter is Janine and Ben hanging out at a in Madeline's castle, in
Okay.
whatever. And then Janine has this like look of just like, they're talking about their plans on what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Because Madeline's like, I'm the queen of limbo. What could I possibly want? And he's like, the same thing I do. Both of our lives are stolen. Both of us know where the thieves live. And and so like, let's get what's ours back. And Janine's like, man, she's feeling useless because she doesn't have powers, blah, blah, blah. And so Madeline goes
Okay.
and meets up with her, and she's like, hey, do you want power? And so she has Sim's finger, and
Okay.
she's like, I don't know. And she's like, honestly, like, so a tribute I collected from its owner, the bastard. Oh, it's just a finger. It's not necessarily Sim's. He says he used
Okay.
it to set me free once. I can do the same for you, but you must ask me to. And so she's like, I don't know. He's like, well, she's like, do you want the power to be complete? Because I can give that to you. And she's like, yeah, give it to me. She's like, all right. So she stabs her with the finger, and then she starts incanting. And she's like, I see you, Elizabeth Tyne. I see you, Janine Gopti. I see you, Sarah Porter. I see you, Mary Bailey. They were the many. They made you wear many masks, and you chose none of them. Enough of that. And it says Balakai Aiya. which apparently is a spell, and it says, "For now, you choose." And then she, like, a mask shows up on her face and says, "A mask to curse them." And she takes it off and says, "A mask to make them bleed," and removes that. And she's like, "What is happening?" "A mask to splinter bone," and she removes that mask. And she's like, "They insist on seeing a monster. You will become a monster, but the choice will be yours and endless. This is your gift, Hallows Eve." And so now we have a
Okay.
limbo infused powered Janine Gobdi
Goblin.
going
Yeah.
by Hallows Eve.
Okay.
And then the winter chapter is Ben standing outside of that place again, so where Peter lives. And the bill collector's still there. Oh, when he says,
Doesn't this guy
okay,
have a life?
right? So Ben has his little inner monologue. It says, "It's really coming down now, but that's okay." Talk about the fucking snow.
Yeah.
You think you like the snow? Maybe you can't remember, to be honest, but you wanted to see how your life was being spent by the one who took it one last time before you take it back. And then guy's like, "It's time to pay, Peter." He says, "I was thinking the same thing." And he's like, "If you talk to everyone that knows you, and believe me, I have, you'd think you're a good guy who's fallen on hard times, but we know that's not true, don't we? We know deep down you're just a deadbeat. How does it feel to be a fake Peter Parker?" And he's, "Did you just call me fake Peter Parker?" He's like, "Stop acting stupid. I know who you are and I know what you are. If you don't want the whole world to know you better." And then Ben grabs his throat, holds him up in the air, says, "My name is Ben. Ben something." Anyway, slams him to the ground, punches him a bunch of times, picks him up, takes him with him. He's like, "I'd like to offer you an exciting opportunity." Takes him back to Limbo to Madeline, and Madeline's like,
What
"Ooh,
the fuck?
perfect." And they're back at that tree with the little, like, with the weird apples, and
Yeah.
it says, "Hello, Gus. You're no stranger down here. Did you know that?" So, something about your attic and all the special tools there. And he's like, "I didn't. How did
What?
you?" "You're scared, aren't you, you naughty, naughty boy?" Yes, I have something to make you feel better. This is the fruit of the tree of exquisite liberation. Eat it and you'll be free. I can go home. You can go free." And he's like, "Okay." And he eats it. And then light, something starts bleeding out of his entire body. And then
Yeah, of course.
then Madeline grabs it. It's like, "Ah, there you are. Become untethered from the meat of you. Your soul is free." She grabs the soul, puts it into a cauldron, sniffs it. It's like, says yes to she's holding his soul, and Chasm's like, "That's him then?" He's like, "Yeah, yes, to inhale this would be to know all of him. Perhaps I'll allow myself just a taste." And she sniffs it and says, "Oh, this was an evil man." And Chasm says, "This is how you become whole. You figured it out. Thank you, Madeline." She says, "That isn't necessary." And so she looks into the cauldron and she sees Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, and
Yeah.
so that's her plan. And then
Okay.
and Ben looks into the cauldron and he sees Spider-Man. And there's like, "Yeah, I now have the opportunity to bite into the fruit that was handed to me, to test if I was given Limbo to rule or to simply hide away and not bother the ones who matter. You will have your army, Ben. By decree of the Queen of Limbo, those who question my authority may take it up with me." And he says, "Accepted. As tribute, Hallows Eve will ensure that you receive your treasure from above. And I won't rest until my prey has tasted Limbo's fruit. I will take all of him because Peter Parker's soul belongs to me." Next, Dark Web.
I I don't get it. I mean, I get what happened.
Right.
The I don't get why this is the story that you're telling, but yeah, we'll read Dark Web.
Yeah.
We'll read all of Dark Web. I'll at least read the X-Men tie-in, maybe the full main series. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah. So basically Ben was trying to, like, recruit Madeline into, like, doing all this, and she's like, "I have very specific conditions that I can't break.
Yeah.
So I can't make a move on Krakoa."
Right.
And so Ben is just like, "What if you, yeah, I know you can't, but what if you gave me your demons to do this?"
Uh-huh.
And so the loophole is the introduction of Ben Riley, which I will say, re- regardless of the execution, it is
Yes,
interesting to take two clones of very popular characters and have them cross paths and like find a
that's
common
true.
ground.
That's true.
In the same way that like the first episode of, or maybe it's the second episode of Inhumans on Disney Plus, the show is terrible, but
Right.
the idea that Maximus shaved Medusa's head is insane.
Right.
Like that is a power move, unlike anything I've seen happen to her in the comics.
Yeah.
And so like there's novelty here. I'm not sold on it. In the same way, like they did a clones side story called Scarlet Spiders in the first Spider-Verse story, which was cool. It was one of the clones of Peter Parker from Ultimate Universe. It was Ben Riley and Kane, and like
Yeah.
that was cool. And at the time, Ben Riley of 616 was still dead, so it was Ben Riley from a different Spider Spider Verse.
Yeah.
But like, it was three different clones with three different backstories, looking into the cloning facilities of the Inheritors. Like, it was a cool on the nose random idea thing, but it's like that should be a side story. It shouldn't be the main
Right.
plot of what you're diving into. But whatever.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. It could be fun. I need to run to the restroom real quick,
Sure.
and I will be right back. I apologize.
All good.
Back.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Okay, so that's the setup for Dark Web. I found the Eternals book.
That's yeah.
It it's one of those things where like I don't feel like it warrants an event, but I also feel like it's something that they wanted to do but didn't want to use the main titles to do it.
And they've been putting so much emphasis on Ben Riley for the last little while that yeah, I'm just like I guess this is what they're paying off towards, you know?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
and so this kind of like explains or justifies like something I didn't understand, which was why
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 Ben?
do you want me to care about Ben Riley? Yeah.
Yeah. And like it makes me feel bad because quote unquote he's the first, but like Kane Parker is so much cooler than Ben Riley.
Yeah.
But whatever. I also forgot to tell you that I read Spider-Punk Battle of the Band, but I can sum it up in 2 sentences real quick. So
Oh, Spider-Punk. God, MVP. of that
I
movie.
know, which makes me so sad that I read this after Across the Spider-Verse came out because this sets a
You
much
would have been.
lower bar for Spider-Punk.
Oh no. Oh, okay.
Anyway, Hobie Brown. So, okay, Spider-Punk, who was originally introduced as anarchist Spider-Man in the first Spider-Verse event in 2014,
Sold. Yeah.
who
You would have
now
had me
goes
either way.
right, who now goes by Spider-Punk. He fights the man in his first solo title side story. He fights a venomized President Norman Osborn and decapitates him. Down with the man. So it was it's a whole thing, but like he had like a venom cop force that was oppressing everyone, and he set up a bus of speakers and jammed a cord and used the sound to neutralize all the venoms. He had a little monologue on Norman Osborn and used his guitar to cut off his head.
Okay.
Anyway, so now you have a U.S. Without without President Osborne, and Hobie thinks that the world can start to get better. Turns out he's wrong because there's a legacy of terribleness that Osborne set up, and as far as his empire and his secret bunkers across America that Hobie finds, so on and so forth. Anyway, he puts a spider band together to go and it also turns out that Osborne survived and is in a giant Arnim Zola looking Krang suit. So venomized head Norman in a giant robot suit is the main villain in this. So he puts a spider band together, which consists of this world's Captain Anarchy, who's Captain America. This is him. His name is Carl Morning Dew.
Okay. Oh, because it's Flag Smasher, right? Morgenthau.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's Flag Smasher.
Yeah. And then you also have I don't know if it ever gives her full name, but Riri Williams is she has a Riot Heart suit.
Okay.
Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, but she only ever goes by Kamala. And she has a you know when you have those like iron knuckles with a word on them.
Oh yeah.
Hers was gonna say embiggen, but it's ew biggin for whatever reason.
Okay.
Yeah, so the four of them are the Spider Band. Their antagonists are Taskmaster, who we replace the S's with dollar signs.
Okay.
Also, his like hood over his mask.
It's a devil lock. Dude, he's
Yeah.
literally the Misfits logo. Oh, that's
Yeah.
hilarious. Okay.
What else? Other antagonist is Craven. And they find out about these Norman secret bases and want to go to the main secret base, which is in DC. We have a Hulk. His name is Rick. It might be Rick Jones. I don't know or remember, but he was a side character. They leave him behind because he has to keep an eye on the home base back in New York. They get in the Spider Van. The Spider Band goes in the Spider Van and hit the road. They do their road
Okay.
tour. And
Nice.
say, "Hey ho, let's go." They get to Philadelphia, which is now known as Philadelphia, which is being looked over by Matea Murdoch. She is Daredevil,
Okay.
the drummer of Philly.
Okay.
Everyone is living, breathing band references and like
This,
rock references.
yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
This
she
sounds like a
enhances her
story I've
radar
been meaning to
vision.
write.
Right? She enhances her radar vision by taking her drumsticks and just drumming them out as like an
Okay.
echolocation thing.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and they fully pulled from Mark Wade for how she sees,
Yeah.
which was cool.
Excellent. It was the best. Yeah.
Yeah. They fight the Kingpin, who is oh boy, the he's he's a he's a another reference that I should have written down as far as like what his antagonistic actions
Hmm.
are. But he's the bad guy, and he has he has three Japanese mutants as his hired muscle: Daken, Hisako, and Sunfire.
Okay.
And they have their fights, and they're they do their things. It's I don't know. It's not good writing, but it's kind of fun to watch. Just for like the references and stuff. I thought of you the entire time I was reading this book.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out because
Yeah.
yeah.
So Norman Osborn is the thing. Officer Venom, which is Eddie Brock with Agent Venom, or it might be Flash with Agent Venom, dressed as like Agent Venom. War
Yeah.
Sentry, which is Bob Reynolds in a War Machine suit, and
Okay.
then
Yeah.
Taskmaster with the dollar signs for the S's. They
It's
fight.
so funny that the Misfits guy is the sellout, the dollar signs guy. Just a merch empire, not a band. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So they fight and take down the man, and then
Yeah.
and yeah, and it ends with the end. But they kind of like they talk about how I guess they want to do more. We'll see. Gambit
Mhm.
miniseries, 5 issues, takes place between Uncanny X-Men 248 and 267.
Okay, so that was early. Was that might have been, huh? Okay. Is it like with Kid Storm? Is it
Yeah.
when he was first introduced? Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so I read on the back. So this is written by Chris Claremont.
Oh,
There's a thing in the back by Mark Basso talking about says like astute readers will note that this story actually takes place during Uncanny X-Men number 267, the second part of
yeah,
Gambit's introductory storyline where he meets up with the de-aged Storm and begins his path to X-Mendom.
yeah.
Why there specifically? Well, Chris wrote a montage into number 267, one where we got only the faintest hint of Gambit and Rose's excellent thieving adventures, which gave us the
Yeah.
perfect expandable window of lost time to explore Gambit in a crucial point of his history.
Cool. I'm into it.
Yeah, so it's that story. We get introduced to we see there's a scene with Ro and Gambit. Ro trying to take down Shadow King,
Yeah.
which is a reference to X-Men 266. And then we see the last time we see Shadow King, not second to last time we see Shadow King, he makes his psychic attack on Moira.
Hmm.
And then it says to see the consequences of this meeting, check out the Mirror Island saga beginning in
Mirror
Uncanny
Island
X-Men
Saga. Yeah.
278.
Yeah.
And then Ro saves this girl who is stealing some clothes from being chased down by a cop, and then she ends up being part of a group cadets who are being trained by Sabine. And so Gambit and Sabine have their little conversation, and then Ro and what is her name? I don't think it matters too much. Have a duel. Ro wins, and Sabine says, there's Shadow King is making some moves around town. If I knew he was here, I wouldn't have had the cadets pull this job. I suggest you get out. And he's like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, so Ro pulls a fast one on Shadow King and hits him in the face with a pie. And then we get introduced to Bounty.
Doesn't
I'm
ring a
gonna
bell.
Okay, all of these characters I'm gonna name drop and
Yeah.
just wait for a reaction because this is your era.
Yeah.
Bounty is a super strong bounty hunter, intergalactic bounty hunter. There's a bounty out for Lila Cheney.
Okay.
And she's taken on the bounty and wants to go and take down Cheney.
She is a recurring character, but not in X-Men comics. Fantastic Four.
Oh no, yeah.
But created
Bounty
by
first appeared in
Claremont.
Fantastic Four number 14 in 1998.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so that is happening, and then Remy and Ro are driving around. Car chase, blind corner. They go off into the water. Remy tries to save her. She passes out. She gets saved by a mysterious woman, gets pulled her out, and then while Ro and takes her, she's like, "Hey, my mom is a doctor. We can save her." While she's knocked out, Ro is visited by Ashake, who trains her in this dream space on how to fight. And Ashake apparently is someone who has history with Shadow King and has gotten away from Shadow King before. And she is Aurora's grandma, many times removed.
Okay.
So great grandma, however many is.
Looking her up, she has only also appeared in New Mutants number 32 and Mystic Arcana Magic from 2007.
Yeah, that book. That was a weird book. I read that and I couldn't tell you anything about it.
I don't think I must have read it. I don't remember it at all.
It's a bigger book. It's a whole collected edition.
Yeah.
But like each issue followed a different magic user with a connecting plot line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, there you go. That's a shocking.
Okay.
So she's related to Ro.
Sure.
Anyway, so the girl that saved Ro in the water is Marissa DeCastro, and her mom is Gabriella DeCastro.
And
And
I just have to look up every single one of these. Gabriella De Castro. Nope, she's a brand new character for this.
oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. All right. Yeah. So, Marissa DeCastro is former Marines, and she has this budding romance with whatever his name is, Remy. And they're being typical man in white suit trying to buy DeCastro's land. His name is Solarz, Solarz.
Okay.
And he has hired some muscle, and the muscle I thought was going to be I thought it was going to be Colossus because it kind of looks like him.
It does.
But that guy's name ends up being something else, obviously.
I'm looking it up now. It's Warhawk, who is
Warhawk,
another
yeah.
obscure Claremont character who has appeared in 3 issues, one issue of Uncanny, 2 of X-Men, 1 of Wolverine, a handful of Luke Cage, and some Black Goliath.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and
I don't
then
remember him at all. I don't remember him in the slightest.
cool. Remy has Marissa wear his traditional gambit suit, which apparently is form
Why is
fitting.
that hot to me? Why is that hot to me? That shouldn't be hot. I'm a little weirded out.
I don't know. It is to you. So anyway, he's it's good against projectiles, but it's not good against a melee combat.
Okay.
Which I guess is a built-in story plot hole because it's supposed to be armor, but he probably gets stabbed a lot, I guess.
None of that means anything. Yeah, sure, fine.
But yeah, so he shoots her point blank and it stops the bullet and she's like, "What the hell?" And he's like, "Listen, I just want to let you know that you're safe. Don't get stabbed." Then but for whatever reason, he's also like says, leave your hair down because that'll help cloak the headpiece. Same applies here as with the body. Bullets, energy blasts, they'll just bounce off. Headache maybe, but dead not so much. So apparently his headpiece also will block bullets and energy blasts for
Oh,
his head.
I guess that makes it. I guess now there's a reason why he wears that ridiculous headpiece because
Yeah.
it is so impractical.
Yeah. But anyway, and then he also goes into the design of it's colorful in the chest to draw the attention for
Oh,
when people aim. So people don't aim for his face; they aim for his chest. Anyway,
interesting.
yeah. So anyway, while Aurora is being trained by Ashake, she pulls in the mom, Gabrielle, to help her train for whatever reason because that it works. Anyway, so Marissa is goes and does fighting while Remy goes and does some thieving.
Mhm.
He messes up Warhawk bad. Training. Bounty shows up, and then more thefts, more gambling, more Marissa, more training in the spirit realm, Ashake place. And then Lila Cheney is doing a concert at like this rocket launch place. Like
Okay.
there's like a giant, like Saturn rocket in the background.
Uh-huh.
And and Lila shows up. She's like, "Hi, lover," and then Marissa's like, "Oh, huh," and she's like, "No, it's fine, it's fine. I was just playing. I'm sorry." Hi, Marissa. I've heard about you. And so she talks about how Lila's teleportation is only interstellar.
Yeah.
That part I didn't know. I thought she was just
Yeah.
like, I thought she was just the most effective teleporter.
No, no, no.
So that man, that's not a helpful. I mean, it could be helpful, but like,
No, it's useful for as a plot hook. It's useful for Lila to show up and get you involved in some sort of zany adventure. It's not useful for her as an adventurer.
right. But so she
or as a superhero rather.
So Gambit has his suit back, and so he has Lila take Marissa off world to go and get her own version of that suit.
Okay.
Meanwhile, this other team of three show up to call to collect the bounty on Lila's head. They team up with Solars, and
Hmm.
Bounty and Gambit fight. Or Marissa and Lila come back, and Marissa's suit is just all pink instead of like the pink, blue, and black,
Okay.
which doesn't do a whole lot. Gambit. So Gambit gets the drop on Bounty, gets her on her stomach, and then does 3 taps on her back that paralyzes her. Because I guess he just knows these kinds of things,
Of course, yeah.
pressure points type stuff, which means that Bounty has a similar build to humans, and she may just be a human, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah, and she's like, "What have you done to me? I
For
can't
what
move."
it's worth, the wiki has her listed as bounty parentheses humanoid.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm not taking any chances with you. Those hits, the neural locks they trigger be unbreakable, but if y'all don't behave. Oh, also, his his speech is written the way he was back in the 90s or whenever this story takes place, and so it's all like broken English, and everyone is share, and missing letters and extra
Right.
apostrophes.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Claremont. We're doing Claremont.
Marissa gets stabbed by Solars, and so her suit doesn't help. And then so the bounty hunters are Bonehead, which is a giant robot AI that uses someone's body as like a power source, and so
Okay. Sure.
yeah. So once it grabs Marissa, it jettisons the old skeleton head that it had, and it's going to use her as his new power source.
What the absolute fuck?
And the others are Cannibird and Tsunami without a T.
Uh-huh.
And and Bonehead starts just eating away at Marissa,
Jeez.
like immediately. And then
Yeah.
Tsunami is basically like the mutant from Morocco that just has like all of the oceans in its body.
Uh-huh.
And so he's full of seawater for some reason, even though he's an alien, but it's saltwater, I guess,
Yeah.
not seawater. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
it starts to it engulfs Aurora and Gabrielle, the mom, and Gabrielle's like, and well, Nashake like visits them and is just like, I trained you, like, why are you not surviving? And Gabrielle's like, you're right, and then just like consumes all of the water or something that Tsunami was using, and then gives herself his armor.
Okay.
So now you have a new powered Dr. Gabrielle person.
Slash Lady Deathstrike looking weirdo. Yeah.
And then Bounty is fighting Cannibird, and Gambit is fighting Bonehead with Marissa inside. Marissa has the soul of a soldier, and so it's not. It's fighting back against the efforts of Bonehead, and so like she's having like an internal struggle fight against Bonehead, while Gambit is having a physical fight against Bonehead. Bonehead tries to do a move and can't because it doesn't have full control. So on and so forth. Gambit, using his stick, is able to pry off a bunch of the armor. Eventually gets Marissa out. and so she kind of has like a deathlock, uh, withered face, but her body is still normal.
Okay.
And
Gross.
then, and Bounty is like, we I should take them off world to train them or whatever. And Marissa and Gabrielle are like, cool, let's go. And Gambit's like, I'm going with you because they have this budding romance thing. And Gabrielle's like, no, or Marissa's like, no, you still have Ro. Someone needs to be with her. And so,
Hmm.
so then they go off, and then she's like, I have another idea for an adventure. And so the the closing remarks from Mark is like, so what's next for Gambit? Well, we all know he and Ro eventually met up with the X-Men and Remy joined the team, but it doesn't seem like Gambit and Ro are quite done with their road trip, does it? Perhaps there's more yet untold. And I'm like, okay. So
Mm. You can just keep this going forever.
exactly. So so yeah, it's a side explanation thing of some of the adventures that Ro and Gambit had that I didn't know was never explained. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Cool.
So Eternals.
Yeah. Eternals.
It's 3 issues. It's Eternals, Thanos Rises, Eternals, Celestia, and Eternals, the Heretic.
Okay.
And it's just more Kieran Gillen just doing in-depth thought analyses on the Eternals leading up to Judgment Day.
Interesting. Okay.
So Eternals, Thanos Rises. So it has a little forward from the machine that is Earth, and it
Mm.
says Thanos' lust for death has led to the murder of billions. The Mad Titan has been a foremost threat to the entire galaxy, especially those of Earth. Most recently, he's been murdering his extended family, the Eternals, and almost destroying the machine, i.e., me. Wait, quote, extended family? Eternals don't breed. So who's to blame for Thanos? Sins of the Sons. So you get a flashback to 200,000 years ago. And just this fight between Eternals. And you have like Dino Riders level dinosaurs mechanized for war. And
Okay. All
this
right.
is this is the last battle preceding the Titan schism before the Accord. And you have the Eternals chronology, and just this is the shit that just makes me so happy to see. So yeah, the first host 1,000,000 years ago, and then the Uranite heresy, which is 600,000 years ago, the ascension of Kronos, which was 500,000 years ago, Titan schism 200,000 years ago, final host was 1 year ago, and then the Thanosian terror, which is the now.
Sure.
And he says, Eternals often exist in families. However, these are created families, made in one breath. There was no act of sex that led to the creation of any Eternal. Mother, father, son, sister are all but designations. Eternals are capable of breeding with other species, sometimes producing enhanced offspring with extended lives. However, these Nephilites are not part of the Great Machine, and so are not true Eternals. Alar's later mentor headed a faction that argued that Eternals should try to expand the machine by discovering a means of true eternal reproduction. Zurus headed a faction that argued in favor of the status quo. The arguments escalated into war.
Okay.
And so it details that kind of skirmish. And Sprite and Icarus were on the side of Alars and Fastos and Thena. And there's like it's really if we just read the like background details from the machine that is Earth, like it would get a lot of this across. But anyway, there's like this brief introduction to key arguments in the Titanos schism. And it was basically a detailed conversation of the Zoroastrian point of view, which is keep everything the way it is, and the Alarsite point of view, which is we can do more as Eternals,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny because now you have the Eternals that now want to change. So it's like, well, you lost anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it ended with Mentor or Alar's being ejected, and the people who worked for him, like Icarus and Sprite, are rebirthed and their memories erased. And so they don't know that they were on Alarz's side. Anyway, Alars leaves, and gets he gets to Titan, where he finds Suisan, and she was initially against Mentor, and then the Titan that they get to is already in ruins because the Titan in Eternals history,
Yeah.
the Uranites had already been there for a few millennia, and it just didn't work out. Anyway, point is,
Okay.
Kronos, like so much, they do so much. Anyway, so Kronos shows up to Mentor, and when Mentor is looking into some eternal reproduction, and Kronos is like, "This is a mistake, don't do it," and he's like, "No, too bad." And then so it's not. So this is a mistake. Not nearly. You nearly destroyed a world in your desire to know more. My reach is shorter. I would but have a child. How can you abandon us? And so Kronos says, "Very well, but I would not have a grandson out of wedlock. I'll even provide the rings," which he gives them the quantum bands as their rings. So Suisan and Mentor get married, so they can go and explore having a child, and then they have a child, and it's Thanos, and that didn't work out too well, and Thanos killed Suisan in his exploration of knowledge, and when Suisan and also when Mentor later was killed by Thanos, when they died, they all got revived back in the machine that is Earth, and immediately sent to the exclusion, and eternal stuff. So, God. And then Celestia. So I think when we were reading AXC, we saw this giant like structure that that Ajax and Macquarie were hanging out at. That giant structure is a throne for a celestial when it comes and does its host.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and this is in Celestia, city of the star gods. One of the 6 eternal cities of Earth. It is designed to house the celestial if they visit. It is also the primary site of eternal spirituality, and what they count as their religion. That the celestials have abandoned the eternals means the priests of Celestia are undergoing a period of intense philosophical self-examination. So you have Ajax, keeper of the left arrow, which is keeper of the old ways. You have Makari or Macquarie, depending on how you pronounce 2 Ks. Keeper of the right arrow, keeper of the new ways. You also have Harpocrates, keeper of the ampersand, which is keeper of the mysteries. Ichel, keeper of the up arrow, keeper of the skies. Master Elo, keeper of the greater than less than, which is keeper of the paths, and the Delphin Mother, keeper of the ... which is keeper of the soil.
Okay.
They are the people that live in Celestia, and basically you have Macquarie and Ajax talking about like, what the hell do we do? And Ajax like, I can't hear the damn gods anymore. So Ajax's connection was Arishem, and then when the Dreaming Celestial was hanging out in San Francisco, it wouldn't talk to Ajax, but it would talk to Macquarie. And so Macquarie became the new priest for that. But then Dream Celestial left, and she doesn't have anyone to talk to anymore either. Um, and then you get a flashback to 1 million years ago when Ajax was sent to go and test the prehistoric Avengers
Okay.
because they needed to know if they're going to be a threat to the planet because they are a group of powered beings. So Ajax shows up,
Right.
and I'm gonna. I really want to. This is oh man. Kieran Gillen's anyway.
He's great. Yeah.
He is great. So he has another little timeline. I'm not going to dive too much into it, but it talks about
Okay.
4 billion years ago when the progenitor first showed up. He also uses this to once again recontextualize Eternal's origin.
Yeah.
So basically, the progenitor was sick, right? And when it died, and like all the bile and
Use your words.
disgustingness, I know, shut up,
Yeah.
came out of his body. That's what mixed into stuff and created the potential for life on Earth and yada yada yada. And
Sure.
so 1 million years ago, Zagreb the aspirant arrives to investigate the missing celestial, which is the progenitor. Zagreb becomes infected and lashes out in pain. Earth's mightiest heroes engage the celestial and, given its injured state, manage to kill it. Also, the first host of Celestials arrives to investigate Zagreb's disappearance. Earth's mightiest heroes engage the Celestials and are pummeled. The Celestials realize this is a plague planet, and they do several things. They realize this planet may eventually create antibodies against the disease via its powered inhabitants. They create this Eternals to defend the process. The Eternals are unaware this is their true purpose, and then they leave.
Yeah.
And so now Earth has become this like petri dish of what made Celestials sick, and is Earth going to create the antibody for that sickness? And so, in order for Earth to develop that antibody, they created the 100 Eternals to
Okay.
make sure that the Earth lasts long enough to create that antibody.
Interesting. Cool.
Right? Then the final host arrived. The Eternals realized their true purpose was just to be the lid for their petri dish. The Eternals commit mass suicide in horror. That was in the first volume of Jason Aaron's Avengers.
Oh, okay.
And then 1 month ago, the machine reboots. As Icarus noted, we're feeling much better now. Enter Kieran Gillen's run on Eternals.
Yes.
So,
Interesting.
yeah. And so Ajax, dealing with the prehistoric Avengers, holds back, and in doing so, she dies. But she also sees that there may be more than one way to let Earth defend itself, and doesn't have to just be the Eternals. So
Yeah.
she gives the Avengers a pass and reports back and says they actually might be kind of cool. Let's see where this goes.
Well,
Yeah, and so but it ends with Ajax visiting the Eternals mountain and seeing that what they've done to a celestial body. She gets pissed, and then before she can attack. So Robbie Reyes is there still, and he's like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, I know who you are, stupid spirit of vengeance. Just you wait." And then before she can lash out, Makari whisks her away with her super speed. Then they have a giant super speed, astral plane type fight, meeting of the minds, and she's like. The Celestials' words are a maze. They conceal meaning. They require interpretation. That they said something so simple to the demon because Robbie Reyes said that from the first volume of Avengers, the Celestials said that it was okay for them to live in the progenitor.
Sure.
And so that's what set her off. And she's like, that they said something so simple to the demon proves it cannot be what they actually mean. And in truth, I know something else. I now know something else. A million years ago, I made a mistake. I let the Avengers live.
Huh.
Yeah. And then the heretic is an issue of focusing on Thanos. The Prime Eternal is a title bestowed upon the elected leader of the Eternal Society. As Prime Eternal, one has the authority to deploy the forces of the machine for whatever ends they desire. In essence, being Prime Eternal is like being the absolute ruler of Earth. And who is the bearer of this all-powerful little title today? Thanos, the Mad Titan. Oh dear. And so at the end of the first volume of Kieran Gillen's run, Thanos is the Prime Eternal, and by becoming the Prime Eternal, Thanos goes and gets brought around the exclusion by Druig, who, according to Eternal lineage, they are cousins
Okay.
because their grandfathers are brothers.
Yeah.
And so Thanos goes in and has a conversation with Uranos, and Uranos is like, "Hey, I've heard of you, Thanos. I heard you killed half the universe. That was
Yeah.
sad. That was pathetic. Why stop at only half?"
Right. Yeah.
And Uranos is like, Druig was hesitant to bring you here, and do you want to know why? And he's like, don't come here. And Thanos is like, Druig didn't want to bring me here, but I guess I'll learn about you from Druig then. And Uranos is like, fine, stay, I'll tell you. So so Uranos details his history from 600,000 years ago when he and Oceanus and Kronos first fought. And this is the last main thing I'm going to dive into.
Sure.
And basically, it's the age of the patriarchs. So while no true Eternals are born, the 100 Eternals are divided into three kinds of family structures. 3-gen, parents and children who in turn have children, the dynasties. 2-gen, parents and children, the atomic families. And then 1-gen, singular Eternals with no families, the singularities. These are the three dynasties. There are three dynasties: the Uranos dynasty, the Oceanus dynasty, and the Kronos dynasty. Dynasties are linked by the founders having a second familial identity. Uranos, Oceanus, and Kronos were siblings. They are known as the three patriarchs. While all Eternals have the same core abilities, those who sit at the top of a dynasty are especially powerful across several axes. Their most relevant ability is that when entering the Unimind, they control the votes of their whole lines. The age of the patriarchs was defined by the three patriarchs being able to dominate the Uniminds and so act as a ruling triad. For details on the matriarchs' influence in this period and the eternal concept of gender in dynasties, see error section deleted.
Okay.
So the Uranus dynasty is his two children are Valken and Virico. Valken's child is Druig, Virico's child is Icarus. Kronos' children are Zurus and Alars. Zurus' child is Athena. Alars' children through non-machine methods are Eros and Thanos. Uranus has this idea, this concept that in his take on protect the machine. So he has a very different perspective on the three tenets or whatever. In order to protect the machine and to erase excess deviation, we should just erase all deviance now. Why let them excessively deviate when they're already deviations from how life should be? And so he wants to wipe out everything, and so he's the reason why Lemuria is destroyed. And in order to do this, he approaches his brothers and he's like, "Guys, this is what we got to do." On top of that, protect the machine. Because the machine is so broadly interpreted, we should be proactive and not reactive. We should look into making Earth mobile and taking out any and all celestial body,
Hmm.
and all celestial, not celestial as in the beings, but celestial as in like space worthy
Sure.
bodies that could be a deterrent from Earth's survival. So
Huh.
so he's talking about basically turning it into ego and
Yeah.
going around just conquering the universe. Oceanus and Kronos are like, no, let's not do that. Anyway, basically, so there's a whole like page of just like his
Hmm.
stance, and it's basically, in conclusion, eternal life is the only life. All other life is heresy, and so we need to get rid of everything.
Uh-huh.
That ends in a huge battle. Oceanus and Kronos end up stopping Uranus and put him in the exclusion. Anyway, well, sorry, not in the exclusion. They send him away, and his 24 other Eternals get sent away. Also, this is at a time when the Eternals aren't at the power level that we know them now. The
Okay.
Eternals originally were just enhanced beings, and then Uranus, Kronos, and Oceanus are like beyond enhanced being.
Right.
They sent Uranus away, and then
Yeah.
Kronos has this he has this passion for study for life, and this is where the what if issues from 1977, what if issues 24
Oh
through
shit.
28, yeah, details all
Wow.
of this.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when Uranus and those 24 Eternals got shunted off of Earth 600,000 years ago, Kronos is exploring everything that is, and he explores the energy that the Celestials use to give Kronos, Oceanus, and Uranus the levels of power that they had. And for whatever reason, it gets put into this little cosmic rod like tube, and the energy overpowers it and explodes. And it coats the Eternal City with powers elevated to where Kronos and Oceanus and Uranus used to be.
Okay.
And so, or like enhanced abilities, and
Jeez.
so the
Yeah.
extra durability, all that crazy
Jeez.
stuff gets given to all the Eternals. But Kronos, in his proximity to the blast, sends his consciousness out into the universe, and he becomes this like like every time we see him these days, he's like just like a galaxy. He looks like eternity,
Yeah.
where it's just like space in his body. And so
Hmm.
that got detailed in What If 24. And all of these What If issues that Kieran Gillen decided to put in, he has a review of how he interpreted that story and how he used it
Oh,
for
that's
his
cool.
run on Eternals.
That's nice.
It's so
I
cool.
like that because you're really taking there's not much source material to go from with
Right.
Eternals. And what does exist is very disparate. Just kind of like, yeah, it's
Hmm.
been spread out so much. That's cool. That's cool that he's yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then I guess this last issue ends with two things. Uranos gave Thanos the keys to his armory, and
Okay.
and Thanos walks away, says, "Thank you, granduncle." Actually, no, I think not. Thank you, grandfather. And Uranos cracks
Mm.
a smile, and it ends there. So anyway, because the end of issue 20, the 24 intro from Kieran Gillen ends with, plus the moment when I realized Uranos was actually closely related to Thanos was a real penny drop moment. Generational awfulness. Let's do this.
Uh-huh.
So then it shows the story from issue 24, issue 25. Dives into more stuff. The first Unimind, and so so Kieran Gillen takes what he can from the first Unimind idea,
Yeah.
because originally it was just shown as something that the Patriarchs did,
Okay. Yeah.
and all this other stuff is like, so how can I twist this? And then so 26, 27, I think is that's it. Yeah. So 27, he talks, or 28, geez. 28 has the expulsion of Uranus and 24 Eternals. And Kieran Gillen is like, this is actually perfect because of the way it just ended up being perfect because of the way I wrote the three dynasties. 24 is about a third of the 100 Eternals. And so it lends itself to
Oh.
show the third of the Eternals that sided with Uranus that got shunted off planet. And just it's, and so like he has that introduction on all five of those issues where it just shows the level of research he put in, but then also how
Yeah.
he used that to inform the story he wants to tell here. And like
Yeah.
it's going on the shelf right next to his run on Eternals. I'm so this was such a good book.
Awesome.
It was only 3 fucking issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so good. And yeah,
Sweet.
it highly recommend Kieran Gillen's run on Eternals to anyone
Awesome.
for anything. Ugh.
Oh, that also reminds me, real quick. Next time you're gonna read something like Gambit or X-Men Legacy or something,
Give you a heads up.
let me know,
You want to read it?
and I'll read it too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because there's some like so that partially why I
Just
didn't want to dive
anything
too in.
that's like, yeah, like super X-Men-y. Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't want to dive too far into it because I figured there might be a chance
yeah.
that you'd want to read it at some point or are going to read it at some point.
Yes.
So,
Thank you for the clarification. Want to? No, will be compelled to. Yes.
But yeah, so especially on these like background ones
Yeah.
that are set more in your time than mine,
Yeah.
I'll definitely give you more heads up.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
So Wolverine, I think was the first one.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a bio break on my own real quick, and
Excellent.
then I'll jump right in. Yeah.
Let's do it. All right.
One sec.
And Cosmo's here, dude. Cosmo and Lucid, my VIPs from Fortnite. What up? When Fortnite earned me a VIP title. Do you have VIP? Oh, because I told you you were VIP. I was like, I didn't make you VIP yet. I can't. I read 5 books this week. I said 3.
Oh right, I am back.
Welcome back,
So Wolverine, let's do this. Uh,
Wolverine.
so yeah, Rob Liefeld is plotting this, and he also draws the first like couple issues, and then I assume he just did the Rob Liefeld thing and couldn't make his deadlines, so somebody else starts taking over the art. Um, yeah, so Deadpool shows up and he's like, "Hey, I'm taking a job to kill you or capture you. No offense, money, I need it, blah blah blah." And he's there with his buddies, the Scourge, which is just an opportunity for Rob Liefeld to draw a bunch
Drop
of new
patches.
characters.
Oh, okay.
Their names are Pigskin, Vance Rebus, Deadeye Dick, Reckless Eric, Mega Max, and Mini Max.
Why are there so many? What? Like, why? Why do you have to? Why? You don't have to draw that. You don't have to add that many people to a title.
Wait, let me show them to you.
Oh my gosh, dude, Liefeld is. Oh boy.
Yeah, they look extremely Liefeld. Just the
So-
dumbest, the most pained facial expressions, the dumbest hats. Just like what the
Liefeld
fuck is going on
did
here?
Wildcats, right?
No, that was Jim Lee actually.
Really? I see them
Yeah.
and I think of Wildcats.
I mean, it's the same. You know, they both started Image together.
Yeah.
They were both, you know, Liefeld was X-Force and Jim Lee was X-Men. They similar career path, except Jim Lee had talent and could hit deadlines, and you know his career took him a lot further. So yeah, basically the whole thing is Deadpool took a deal to they've got Siren in a stasis tube because remember she got her throat cut and her vocal cords severed, and so he's capturing Wolverine on behalf of some evil organization to have her healed up. And they're like they say, you know, just like in text bubbles, because it's never shown, oh, they're dissecting mutants to usher in a golden age for humanity or something. I don't know. They're called the Watchtower. They're run by this guy called the Administrator. This guy named Geronimo Crow with an E at the end shows, just busts in out of fucking nowhere, and he's like, I'm the administrator's son, and me and my friends Cargo, Hardwire, and Shooter are, you know, we have to stop the terrible things that they're doing. And so, you know, as the plot goes, Siren emerges healed. They used Wolverine's blood or something for healing, blah blah blah. Siren and Wade fly away. They're like, oh, cool, okay, our part in this is done. And then Wolverine and Crow's group are like, all right, now it's time to take the fight to the Watchtower. You know, like end of issue cliffhanger type thing. None of these characters would ever appear again.
None of these 73 new characters we just introduced.
That was 2 issues, by the way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then the next issue, Wolverine's tracking a serial killer in some abandoned subway tunnels, meets up with this woman named this police captain or whatever named Tara, and they're like tracking, you know, NYPD group also tracking the serial killer through the tunnels. These shadowy rock creatures show up and just kill all of the cops except for Tara, and so they go hunting. We later learned that the shadowy rock creatures belong to the Mole Man, and while they're all kind of tromping around down there, they just kind of randomly run into Spider-Man, and they track them back to the mole creatures back to Mole Man. Turns out the mole folks didn't do the murders, and Mole Man takes them to just this rogue band of Morlocks who've set up shop somewhere. Somehow they keep finding more Morlocks after like killing off every Morlock like 17 times. So we've got 2 we've got a bunch of brand new Morlock characters here. Only two they bother to name. We've got Carve. No, sorry. Yeah, Carve. His name is Carve. And he has unbreakable skin and one retractable claw on the bottom of each wrist.
Okay. How long is it? Is it
And
like Duck and Wolverine length?
no. It's like barely longer than his fist.
Like rar. Okay.
Yeah, like "Rrr."
Hence carve and not cut.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. Scrape.
Scratch.
Yeah. And then the other one is named Feud, and he's a big Wendigo looking guy, and they're like, yeah, he has the brain the size of a walnut.
Hold up. You got
yeah.
the scratchy thing coming.
I've got the scratchy thing. All right. Better?
Give it a second.
Is it better?
Yep.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. So who's
So, yeah.
who's the brain
The other
walnut
guy's-
person?
Fugue.
Okay.
Yeah, the other guy's named Fugue. He looks like a Wendigo. And he has brain the size of a walnut, apparently.
But he's not a Wendigo because he's
But
not
he's
in
not a
Canada.
Wendigo. Because he's not in Canada. He didn't eat anybody. Um
We know
just a
too
regular
much.
ass Morlock. Yeah.
I'm just gonna. Our
You know
level of Marvel knowledge is not healthy.
It's so ridiculous. And again, just that there is this okay, you've gone past the 49th parallel. You better not eat anybody.
Well, you know,
In the States, you're
magic
fine.
magic
Donner
follows
Donner, yeah.
territorial borders. You didn't know this?
It follows political borders that
Absolutely.
Yeah. Again,
God, can you? Oh no, can you imagine if like
I know we've
10
already
years
done
from
this
now
bit.
we lose Montana to Canada, and then all of a sudden Wendigos show up in Montana.
We've literally already done this bit, but yes, there have been treaties to like normalize, badly surveyed parts of the border, and straighten them out. And it's like, did it change when they did that?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did it follow when Canada got independence from Britain, or was this? Did this last before Canada was its own entity?
No, so it's about your personal identification. If you identify as Canadian, then you are susceptible to the Wendigo curse.
If you drink Molson beer, if you
You say A.
yeah, if you say A, if you say the phrase "fuck the dog" to mean procrastinating, these are all signs that cannibalism is not for you.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Exactly. Sorry. Continue.
So Wolverine's like, "Hey, Carve, I'm gonna since you're a Morlock, I'm gonna challenge you in a one-on-one fight for leadership." And so they fight, and he gets somehow this giant like chasm appears in a pillar where you just like, if you fall off, it's like a bottomless pit into, I don't know, lava or something. They're still in the tunnels under New York City, but that's fine.
Well, it's
Whatever.
the same hole from Daredevil. Netflix.
Right,
Daredevil.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But they're in a giant pillar with the hole surrounding them.
Yes.
Yeah. And so they're fighting, and like, oh, I got knocked off. Oh, I'm gonna be saved. Oh, Fugue fell in. Oh, somebody saved Fugue, right? Anyway, the tremor is what like knocks them off. The fight actually lasts 3 panels, and then a tremor happens, knocks them off, and they're like, oh, we need to save, and then they get out, and they're like, I guess that solved the problem. Like, maybe Carve and Fugue fell in the pit, but maybe not. We'll, they'll. I was gonna say these characters would never be seen again.
However,
However, we recently read it's Carver, not Carve. I'm sorry. We recently read an issue of comics with Carver in it.
is he the one that survived in Krakoa?
He was part of
In
Brimstone
Sabretooth?
Love's cult in
Oh,
in the
oh.
Marauders annual, which is making me think that Steve Orlando is the only person in the world who's read more X-Men comics than me and has been damaged by them more than me. All right, I've also got an annual of Wolverine, Wolverine Annual 2000. This guy named Tyrus Krill, who is a bounty hunter who hunts Brood, just kind of like shows up on Earth and starts showing people pictures of Wolverine. Is like, where do I find this guy? Finds him in like 2 pages.
It's a Star Wars syndrome. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
At least he asked.
Right? Um, he's like, I'm not just after any Brood. There's these Brood criminals, even amongst the Brood, hiding out on Earth. They don't just kill for reproduction, they kill for fun. They killed my family. And we find out over the course of it that he was also implanted by the Brood, and he's been fighting his own transformation. And he sought out Wolverine because he's, a legend at killing Brood. So they team up, they kill a lot of sleazoids, and then, predictably, Wolvie has to finish off Krill at the end of it, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Okay, that's the annual. Iron Fist and Wolverine. So I'm working on this theory about Iron Fist, having read none of the relevant comics, by the way, just going by, okay. You know how there's this Marvel doesn't give a fuck about Iron Fist except for when they have to. Just in a very
I can't
extreme
argue
way.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't really ever even have to. Like, remember during AXE Judgment Day, we read there's this whole thing going on right now with the Swordmaster Lindley becoming Iron Fist, and that character doesn't even have their own title. They just have to we've got a crossover. Oh, good. Let me get a Lindley in there. Let me get some Iron Fist. Just please anywhere to just so Iron Fist has had in a character dating back to the 70s, right? Like the whole kung fu movie, blaxploitation, femsploitation action movies of era, all kind of converging and made all of these characters happen at once. And then after that was over, they just didn't really publish him anymore. They
the Brewbreakers run was really good.
But Brewbreaker and Factions run was incredible. And then they've had a couple, and so yeah, it's just you pull them out of the closet. It's kind of like Eternals. You pull them out of the closet, you do something incredible with them, and they're like, well, yeah, we can't really follow that. Back in the closet,
we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have very many individual titles. For sure.
I mean, Moon Knight was that way for a long time, but has been published a lot more recently. Characters kind of grown in popularity.
Yep, same with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, exactly. So this is during a long period of non-publication for Iron Fist. They had him do Heroes for Hire title in the 90s that didn't go anywhere and blah, blah, blah. So apparently the backstory, the leader of the Hand du Jour, some kid named Junzo Muto, stole the Iron Fist powers from Danny. Danny also had some plan in effect where he was going to bring Kunlun to Earth, and it was going to happen whenever he went to Tokyo. That Kunlun was just going to come to Tokyo. And I don't know why, but Junzo is like, well, that would be great. Like, because when Kunlun comes to Tokyo, all of Tokyo is going to transform into Kunlun. It's going to be walled off, inaccessible. For some reason, all technology is going to be turned off. They don't say all electronics, they say all technology. So, like, is the wheel going to work? You
Oh
know,
my
will
God.
we have fire?
Okay.
Will
Plumbing.
be able to, yeah, like practice agriculture? Um, who knows? He's like, first I will take over Kunlun, and then it's impenetrable, and then from there I can take over the world.
The world.
So he ambushes Luke, Misty, and Danny are out for a walk. Ambushes them, poison gases Luke, kidnaps Misty, and so and then he's like, haha, taking her to Tokyo. Danny's like, well, shit. So Danny goes to Tokyo, even though he's like, I can't go to Tokyo because that'll cause the thing. Kunlun to show up, and but I have to go after Misty, so here we go. So he just kind of like shows up in Tokyo and just starts fighting ninjas. He just he just finds ninjas and starts fighting them. And you don't
I
really
mean,
have to do
it's
that for
Tokyo.
very
Of course
yeah.
they are.
Yeah, and you don't really have to do that for very long before Wolverine shows up for a team up. So he's there.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
And then Fisk's people show up. Kingpin and Danny and Wolverine are like, oh, sure, we'll take a meeting. He offers to help them take down Muto. They tell him to get lost. Because he's very invested in building business empire in Tokyo. He's been basically locked out of doing business in the States at this point in time.
Okay.
Presumed dead or something for quite a while. Anyway, and then the cities start to merge, and these giant impenetrable walls go up. Some Captain America shows up on behalf of Shield. Tony also starts flying over because his girlfriend is Japanese and she's trapped inside the city. Sunfire, Psylocke, Luke Cage also join the team up. Yeah,
Because she's Japanese. It's not even.
no.
She's from Tokyo. She's Japanese.
This is all of the explanation. I'm not leaving things out here.
Okay.
And Betsy's there because it's like, well, she has business with the hand because the blah 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 body swap thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Sunfire learns that the reason this is all happening is because of Danny Rand, and so he turns on all the rest of the American superheroes because goddamn Gaijin, stay the hell out of out of Japan, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually he comes around to it, but there's a big split, and Danny is inside and everyone else is outside trying to get inside. Danny gets captured almost immediately, and comes across his uncle, UT, who, just a dude in a weird mask. And so they free Danny, and he's like, oh, we have to bring UT. Danny's been having visions of his mother saying, like, remember, you still have family. You're not all your family's dead. He's like, oh, yeah, I have to make nice with UT, I guess. Like, well, the transformation of Tokyo into Kunlun is happening is tied to Danny's heartbeat. So UT just stabs him through the chest. Um, and yeah, and he dies. But he's brought back by the fading magic of Kunlun, visions of his mom, etc., etc. Um, and the end result is the dragons of Kunlun are stuck in Tokyo, and everything
Oh,
else goes back to normal.
okay.
Except Danny still doesn't have Iron Fist powers.
Sure.
Yep. Cable 85 through 88. Actually, I'm just doing 85 and 86 because it's getting fucked over by crossovers that I
Oh, no. Okay.
yeah, it's fine. Um, so Irene Merriweather, the journalist that has been covering Cable, she's dead ass asleep, and then this weirdo floating in the air in the lotus meditation pose shows up, stops time. She's called Electo the Second. I think second as in amount of time, not
Ah,
like not that there was a first Electo.
okay.
Um,
Ew.
and she's like, Electo's like, buckle up, motherfucker. Apocalypse was just the start of Cable's destiny. He thinks he's done with this shit, you know. No, 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 no. Eh, and he's also and she's also like, so what the hell is Blake Smith's deal anyway? You know, this weird looking dude, like supposed to be part of the Ascani. Like, why doesn't he like really help Cable? And why is he such a bastard about like explaining things? And Irene's like, yeah, you're right. And then she says it to Cable, and he's like, no. Um, Cable's walking around in uh near his safe house in New York, and he sees this sign for like uh a sign that's like a sign on the front of a business, and it says, "Are you as dangerous as you think?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fucking dangerous as I think." And so he walks in, and he's never seen it before, and it's this dojo run by a woman named Shin, and they spar for a while, and she just like wrecks him, like has him, you know, in the spar, like does the like this would have been the
Well,
killing blow or
Cable's not a
whatever.
hand-to-hand fighter.
I mean, he
He
kind of is.
can.
He is in the 90s.
Mm.
Um or he doesn't do it much, but everyone always is like, I can't believe someone so big is so fast.
Mm.
Um
Sure.
but anyway, yeah.
He's got a
Uh
scimitar. He's got to fight some
right,
melee here and there.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And so she's like, okay, I'll train you. And he's like, I didn't ask to be trained. He's like, shut up, we're having tea. And then he, you know, so the scene ends and he leaves, and then the whole dojo disappears. And he's like, well, that was fucking weird. Um and he's like, well, I have been having these visions of my sister, Rachel, you know, who's been stuck in the time stream for like 10 publication years. Like she's been out. She's been out of commission. They have just like no Rachel Summers for quite a while. Um, and it's like they've been, you know, kind of teasing this as something that he might do, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, 12 is done. I don't have anything better to do. Let's go get Rachel. Um, and so she's 2 billion years in the future. Billion. And this part was actually kind of cool. It is far enough in the future that um potential timelines are converging because Earth just like can't last that long. There are no divergent possibilities left that would change what Earth is at this point, so they're all converging back to like a similar
Huh.
a single time stream basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
These are all the ones that where there is still an Earth that hasn't been like molecularly obliterated.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't that does not track at all with how they normally do parallel universes, but it's a cool idea. I'm into that. So
Yeah.
yeah. And it turns out that this 2 billion years from you know, from now, Earth is prison for a dude named Gaunt, who was a universal conqueror. he the most evil human that has ever lived, and he's 10,000 years old, and he's conquered you know galaxies upon galaxies upon galaxies and wanted the whole thing, and was finally defeated, and they're like, oh, execution is too kind for all of the terrible things that he did, so we're just going to leave him stuck in the future, uh with no possibility for escape for all time. um and he's bored as fuck, and so um Rachel just kind of got spat up by the time stream because she was also at a different end of time, uh held by somebody else, and then kind of came here. um just timey-wimey shit, I don't know. Because she got split into two. So, or this is the more compelling theory, because she's Mother Iscani later when she's elderly. um so either she got split into two. She does have some vague memories of Iscani stuff, but there's also the possibility that her Mother Iscani time is going to happen after all of the more recent 616 publication stuff that we've read.
Oh. Huh.
Anyway, yeah, it's kind of a more than like it doesn't mean anything, but anyway. So yeah, she's kind of showed up, and Gaunt, like, read her mind, is like, oh, you've got this brother named Cable. Yeah, I'll use you as lure to get him here, because I am so fucking bored, and he seems like a good person to fight. And like kind of an interesting dude to like have conversation. So they have like a dinner party, they're like hanging out. He's like, accept my hospitality, be my guest, blah blah blah, but we are gonna fight, and we're gonna fight like, no rules, no holds barred, just fucking go at it. And if you win, Rachel gets to leave. If I win, you have to stay here with me. And Cable wins. And the fight's all right. And so brings back Rachel, and is like, so Rachel, what do you want to do now? And she's like, she's like, oh, there's no Excalibur anymore. Oh, maybe don't tell anybody I'm here. Like, don't even tell Jean. Don't tell anybody. I'm just gonna go to college. I'm gonna try and live a normal life. Yeah. I'm just gonna live a normal life for a little bit.
Huh.
So I think this was just to make it easy to bring her back if anyone else wanted to do it later without, having to be like, oh, now we need to go get Rachel. And
how'd you get back from time?
Right. It's like, how'd you get back from college? I guess that's a little easier to answer.
Cool.
I mean, she grew up in dystopian, like, Days of Future Past era, right? So, like, does she have a high school diploma? Were there high schools in Days of Future Past? Like, what is her level of formal education to get into college? She's going to have to go GED, city college. Like, she's going to really have to work her ass off.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, right?
Meanwhile, Lorna has 2 PhDs.
Fucking Lorna, man. Is it 2? I think it might be only 1.
Oh.
Still.
Meanwhile, Lorna has a PhD.
Yeah. Deadpool. So we have a new creative team on Deadpool, and they don't have the tone at all. It's just kind of like a writer named Jimmy Palmiotti, and he's writing this as kind of just a crime fic with a kind of regular dark humor kind of thing going on. Okay, there are a couple funny bits. A guy named the Sack robs a bank, and he has like a sack, a bag that he can just like pull things out of. He's got like cartoon logic. Yeah, he's got a bag of holding basically. Okay. And he's like pulling out flesh-eating like creatures, and he throws them at Deadpool, and they run away in horror because his cancer face is so disgusting.
Okay.
And Deadpool can't stop laughing at a guy named the Sack and beats him easily. And there's a cop there on the beat, and he's like, "Hey, so there isn't a cash reward for this, but I've got a job that can pay you $1 million. All you have to do is kill these like 7 mob bosses for me." And Wade has this like token, like reticence at being a contract killer, which I don't understand because that's who he's always been.
Mm-hmm.
And like some turmoil, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it eventually." And Frank's like, "Cool, go to this tattoo parlor in South Brooklyn." And the one thing I did like about this, lots of real like New York, Brooklyn locales, like all throughout the borough. Real streets and neighborhood names that as a resident I enjoyed. He's like, "Go to this tattoo parlor in Sheepshead Bay and meet with this woman named Anastasia." Not Anastasia. Anastasia.
Is that like writing Mississippi and putting too many SSI?
Yeah, Mississippi. um Deadpool and Anastasia. She says call me Anna, and he mostly does, but I'm not. I'm gonna call her an Anastasia. It's too hilarious. They have like instant chemistry, and he's like really falling for her, and she's very interested in him. They're going on dates, they're going to Coney Island together, blah blah blah. Um Frank the policeman's wife is killed. Um and it turns out that she did it, an Anastasia, and she also it turns out that the whole thing was like she has a the wife had a life insurance policy of $1 million, and that's how they were going to pay Deadpool to kill these mob bosses. The mob bosses are uh like they have an Anastasia under their thumb, and she can't be free until they're all dead or something. And so
This is like the 7 Horcruxes of whatever his
yes,
name is.
yes, exactly. And so the plan was kill the wife, get the $1 million, kill all the mob bosses, pay off Deadpool, and then they'll be free to leave together. But Deadpool doesn't manage to finish the job on one of them. He stays alive. Um, you know, Big climactic thing. And Anastasia kills him. Just shoots basically every single supporting character that's been introduced throughout like hits Deadpool in the back of the head with a shovel, like hog ties Frank, like she's just going fucking wild all over the place. And at the end, it's her and Wade, and she's like, "You're the one I love for real. It's gonna be okay. Let's leave together. It'll everything will be okay as long as we're together." And he's like, "You're crazy. I don't trust you at all." And he's very sad, but he shoots her and kills her.
For free.
Yeah. And then after that, he's very horny and sad, and through so there's the next issue, through just like a bunch of like happenstances, he starts running into beautiful women everywhere who are just absolutely throwing themselves at him. There's a nurse, there's a woman in a bar, there is a grocery store clerk, there's a delivery, or a random woman at the grocery store, and then a woman who's delivering his groceries. And he hooks up with all of them. They're all just absolutely throwing themselves at him. And knockout beautiful at every single one of them. And at the end of the issue, we learn that they are all Vanessa, aka Copycat, his
Oh,
estranged ex, who he was deeply in love with, who is a shape-shifting mercenary. So that's a plot
interesting.
hook, yeah, for what might be next.
Man, what a what a what a way to. That's weird.
Yeah,
Like, just thinking like practically, um, a version of this conversation happens with like Emma and Cyclops when Emma's like, I can make you think I look like anything you want."
right. Yeah, yeah.
Man, interesting. Okay.
Jean, Madeline, Dark Phoenix, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, crucially, Wade doesn't know that
Right.
this was
Yeah.
Copycat. So, he's like calling all these girls back, and it turns out that it's all Copycat.
Man.
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes as a plot hook.
Mm-hmm.
That's it for me this week. That's all my reading.
I mean, that wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad.
It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
What do you have? What do you have coming up for next week?
Next week I have I've got some I think I'm going to throw in some Gambit. Gambit's also being kind of screwed over by involvement in crossovers. But it's like nearing the end of a big, of the title, like the big climax of the whole thing. So,
That's obnoxious.
I know. So I might throw that in, and then I've got the end of Mutant X, if you remember that.
Cool. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
The
Earth X
that's the alt universe
with Bloodstorm.
with Bloodstorm, with Havoc, and
Havoc leading,
the Six. Yeah. Yeah. And it's 616 Havoc, who's been blah 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 blah. Anyway,
Right.
And then I have X-Men Black Sun, which is an Amanda Sefton book.
Oh.
And X-Men Magic. She has also been taken the superhero name Magic. So Magic with a K. So it's kind of a follow-up spin-off from X-Men Black Sun. A solo book for her.
Cool. Because
Yeah.
I still know so much about Amanda Sefton.
I'll give you the full backstory before we start. I'll make sure to remember to do that, because it's
Cool.
goofy in the way that 70s comics were. What do you got next week?
So I have Defenders Beyond, which, according to the cover, is a team up. So the Defenders are always random people that end up doing cosmic, omniversal type stuff.
Yeah.
So you have Blue Marvel and America Chavez, who's done this before. Loki.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And they've teamed up
Tigra,
before.
who's wearing more than a bikini.
It's bizarre
and
unrecognizable.
And Taya, who is Galen, who turns into Galactus, his mother from the sixth multiverse.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dude. So do you remember last time I was doing a Defenders book and I was freaking out about how Doctor Strange's home is the 8th universe, and how I was like, that means he's the like
Galactus.
he's the survivor for the destruction of this universe to show up in the 8th. We're in the 8th omniverse. Post Secret Wars, post Hickman's Secret Wars.
Oh, that's right.
That was considered the universal reset.
Oh.
But what? So in terms of omniverse or whatever multiverse, this is the 8th. We're in the 8th iteration, which is
right.
the only difference between this iteration and the seventh iteration is that Miles Morales and his family are in this universe instead of Ultimate,
Interesting.
and the makers here. But like,
Right.
yeah, so the excitement of Doctor Strange being his home being in the eighth universe is
Right.
just because he survived from seventh to eighth. Anyway, so we'll see. It's if since Taya's involved, there's gonna be some multiversal shenanigans, and I am excited.
Yeah.
The next book in my pile, which I'm not sure if I'm gonna read or not, and even if I do, I don't know if I'll do it for the pod. It's called Marvel Snapshots.
Are they just trying to go off the popularity of Marvel Snap?
I don't know, because it's a thick boy, and it's a bunch
Yeah.
of single issues of, and it's all like Submariner Marvel Snapshots, Fantastic Four Marvel Snapshots, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of them. And it just says the description is a quarter of a century ago, writer Kurt Busiek and painter Alex Ross gave you a new perspective on your favorite heroes with the groundbreaking Marvels. Now Busiek invites some of the industry's most distinctive voices to do it all over again, featuring stories set throughout the history of the House of Ideas, starring the everyday people living in the age of the extraordinary. These are the Marvel Snapshots. So I guess it could be fun.
Okay.
So you got Submariner, Fantastic Four, Captain America, X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, Civil War, and Captain Marvel. And I guess it's going to be from different perspectives of different times of those stories, I guess. We'll see.
Okay.
And then, oh, I've got the third volume of McKay's Moon Knight.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
And then I have a Jessica Jones mystery, The Variants. And I know nothing about it, but it's written by Gail Simone and Phil Noto.
Oh, cool. Oh, wow. That's a hell of a creative team.
Right?
If they're doing just like Jessica Jones just solving random mysteries, that's really dope. I love the idea of doing just like a mystery novel Marvel tour and letting Jessica Jones just be your like, random detective story.
Yeah, so this is the tag is what would it be like to meet your own alias? And then it's in the same like
Oh,
alias
I
text.
see. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what it does. But for now, I'm reading those four, and we'll see. The next book is Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. I may throw that
okay.
in just for passing it.
Yeah.
But we're only a couple weeks out from Dark Web,
Okay.
which in order to read Dark Web, there's 3x episodes that we would have to do.
3 whole episodes? Jesus Christ.
So
Seriously?
if we
Oh
look
my
at
God.
if we look at the reading order on that Destiny of X wiki,
3 episodes, not 3 volumes.
3 episodes. Destiny of X resumes between AXE and Dark Web. I guess I'll bring this over so people.
Do you want
on
to space
Twitch
them
can
out
see.
a little bit this time? Do you want to do one next week and then kind of alternate?
Maybe. This is gonna be X-Men 15 through 17, Marauders 7 through 10, New Mutants 30 through 33, X-Men Annual, Exterminators 1 through 3, and X-Men 18.
Remember, we also have to add Knights of X5 and Sabretooth 4 and 5. Because we skipped those
Yeah.
over.
Yeah. Fucking A. Can we make this decision?
Yeah, let's make the decision offline.
I was gonna say like tomorrow. Like I want to
Yeah.
see. I want to make sure and see if I have all of these issues, or if I'm gonna
Okay.
have to,
Yeah,
have to
fair.
download them all.
Yeah.
That'll
That's totally
help
fair.
determine where my headspace is at about all this.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so So I either have the stack of interesting books or I have the stack of X books. We'll see.
Okay. Sounds great.
Oh man. Okay. So I guess then with that.
Yeah. Do you have a place for?
Oh, well, who knows when this is gonna air, but happy Father's Day, by the way, to all the
Yeah.
fathers out there
That's right.
who listen, because we are recording this on Father's Day 2023.
Yeah.
Anyway, with that,
Yes.
let's put the outro music like here.
Oh. Okay. There. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that'll serve as a good spot. Oh boy, and that's and we're done. Oh, I guess I'm gonna stop Audacity.
I suppose that makes sense. All right, man.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a date stamp and the books that I read.
I really
chat.
appreciate it. Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go write that out right now.
Cool.
And I will catch you on the flip.
All right. See you next
Our
week,
dude.
man. Or see you on
Yes,
Tuesday.
sir. See
All
you
right.
Tuesday.
Peace.
Late.
Recording.
I always go. Do you guys see how like I go to close out of whatever this thing is called, Zoom, and he always ends it before I can. Anywho, guys, we got 2 follows yesterday. Brooke Lynn for you and Elfsar. I wonder where they followed me from. That's exciting. Cause yeah, I didn't stream yesterday, unless it was after midnight on Friday when we were playing Fortnite. Who knows? I don't know. I don't remember at all. But that doesn't matter. I'll be back in a couple hours. We're gonna read some Iron Man, and it's gonna be awesome. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful time, and talk to you soon. Goodbye.